Yeah. Yeah. Good deal, Pastor. You start coming to work with one of them collars on.
Yeah.
We ready? Okay.
Good morning.
Okay, welcome everybody here today. We're going to start our board meetings, and Mr. Slade is going to have an invocation with us.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the day that you've given us today. I thank you, Lord, that you have provided us with an opportunity to serve our fellow citizens. Father, we thank you for the government that you have ordained and the men that you have elevated to positions of authority here. I pray, Father, that you would honor their sacrifice, that you would bless them in their effort to try to promote the interests of this county and protect our citizens. Lord, thank you for those who come alongside our staff, our first responders, Lord, our law enforcement personnel. Lord God, thank you for their service to the community and to the county and the sacrifices that they and their families make. I pray for their protection. Give us guidance and wisdom this morning that we would do the will that you have asserted, that you have put, that we would watch what we say, we would hold our tongues, Lord, and we would communicate with each other in a way that is pleasing in your sight. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All right. We're going to call to order. First item of business is approval of minutes. Motion by Mr. Morrow.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Old business.
Public hearings that are scheduled for Monday's board meeting on April the 4th. The first item is a conditional use permit for Kendrick Gordon at 1449 Old Fannin Road. He's seeking the conditional use permit to operate a mobile food truck. The property is located on the west side of Old Fannin. It's just north of Water Dance Apartments. It's a .52 acre parcel that's zoned C2. This is an aerial view of that property. This is a street view of the property. He has permission from the property owner to park on the lot, and he proposes hours of operation as Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have received written verification from the Mississippi State Department of Health that he is licensed as a mobile food truck. This is a picture of the food truck. This is his site plan showing the placement of the truck, parking area for patrons, and the flow of traffic entering and exiting onto Old Fannin. These are surrounding properties, the street view of that property. And this is across the street in the city limits of Flowood. The property was posted and the notice of the hearing was published. We've received no calls in opposition.
The mud bugs guy?
She said no calls.
Oh, no calls.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
He came in person. All right.
All right, the second item for review is a conditional use permit for Roy Anderson at 194 Bragg Street. Mr. Anderson is seeking the conditional use permit to place a 2016 28 by 48 manufactured home on the property, which is located on the north side of Bragg Street. It's a 2.40 acre parcel. It's zoned R1B. This is an aerial view of the property. There's an existing home on the 2.4 acres, so if approved, this would be the second dwelling. This is Mr. Anderson's site plan showing the placement of the mobile home. This is a view of the property. He's got his pad in place. And these are surrounding properties.
All right. Make a motion to set it.
These
Oh,
are
we're
just
gonna
reviewed
set.
for Monday.
Okay.
Use permit for Dana Campbell at 1286 Star Road. Ms. Campbell is seeking the conditional use permit to place a 2016 16 by 72 manufactured home on the property. The 30.9 acre tract of family land is zoned RE1. This is an aerial view. There's an existing home on this property. The red box is an approximate location for the placement of the manufactured home. It appears that the manufactured home won't be visible from Star Road. This is their site plan showing the existing home and the placement of the trailer. This is the existing home on that property. and these are surrounding properties. That property is posted and the notice published, and we've not received any calls on it either. We didn't receive any calls on Mr. Anderson's conditional use permit either, on Bragg.
All right.
Okay, the next item for review is a rezoning request by McIntosh Farms on Andrew Chapel Road. The property is located on the west side of Andrew Chapel Road. They're seeking to rezone 109.26 acres. It's currently zoned R1, and they're asking to go to RE1. This is an aerial view of the property. It's a wooded map. You can see the current zoning R1. It's surrounded by the RE1 zone to the east, the south, and the west. This is their site plan. They plan to subdivide. The buyers have an option to keep livestock on the property. The largest lot is 40 acres. The smallest lot is 8. And they all have frontage on Andrew Chapel Road. The current owners plan to place restrictive covenants on the property before it is marketed. The first restriction would be that there can be no further subdividing of the mini farm tracts. They're minimum for houses constructed on the property, and manufactured homes are prohibited. This is a view of that property on Andrew Chapel, and these are surrounding properties. The property had several inquiries, but no one has been opposed. Next is a conditional use permit for Katie McKinnon at 1026A Greenfield Circle, manufactured home on family land. It's located on the east side of Greenfield Circle. It's a 6.89 acre parcel. It's zoned RE1A. This is an aerial view. There's an existing home on this property, so if approved, it would be the second dwelling on the 6.89 acres. This is an approximate location of where the manufactured home will be placed. And these are surrounding properties. This property has been posted and the notice was published in the paper, and we've received some inquiry calls, but no one was opposed. This hearing is scheduled for the 15th, April the 15th. Conditional use permit for Clifton Rogers Jr. at 252 Clover Valley Boulevard. He's seeking the conditional use permit for the rating at 252 Clover Valley Boulevard. Property is located on the east side of Clover Valley Boulevard. It's an approximately 250 acre tract of land. It's zoned RE1. That's an aerial view of that property. This is their site plan. The application states that the lodge, the pavilion, and cabin A are used for weddings, family reunions, church retreats, and retirement functions. The cabin B, sheds A and B, and the shop building are used for hunting camp members only. However, it appears that the shop is being used for their tree service business. No building permits were obtained for any of these structures. This is a view of the lodge. This is a view of the pavilion and the cabins. This is the shop building. It also appears that they are dumping vegetative debris.
All right, new consideration.
All right, the permit for Jamie McCafferty on Mount Helm Road. He's seeking the conditional use permit to place a modular home on the property. It's located on the south side of Mount Helm Road of a 9.34 acre parcel that's zoned RE1. This is an aerial view of the property. It's a vacant piece of property. This is a site plan showing the 2 acres and the proposed location of the modular home. This is a view of that property. The access to the property is the driveway to the west. There is one way. This is a view of the property. This is looking back toward Highway 25. And then these are surrounding properties. Mr. McCaffer.
What, I mean, I saw the map a while ago, there's one at the very east end, and then it's gonna be Mr. McCafferty's, yeah.
Right here?
That survey right there, go one more
Yeah.
than that.
His access is here.
Going back to the right, the picture, there's a trailer back there as well, I mean, a home back there.
All the way to the right is a home built house.
Okay, and then your 2 acres is gonna be right there?
Yeah, and then if this goes right, hopefully the next 2 will be mine too, coming back this way.
Are you planning to put modular homes on each of those 2 tracks? I guess my concern is, when does the subdivision ordinance kick in far as?
If she subdivides the property again, the subregs would kick in.
Supposedly, she's telling me that mine would be it.
Okay.
When you say the next 2 acres, you plan on increasing to approximately 4 acres?
Yes, sir.
Then you're not planning on subdividing that?
No.
Okay. So, I mean,
Have a motion to set the public hearing?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gaines, second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion?
Next is a conditional use permit for Deborah Henry at 3330 Nicky Lane. Ms. Henry is seeking the conditional use permit to construct a guest house on her property at the end of Nicky Lane, which is in Raintree subdivision. It's a 9-acre parcel. It's zoned RE1. This is an aerial view. Ms. Henry has an existing home on her existing home. There's also a shop building and her proposed guest house location. This is a view of the property. There's her existing home and the guest house. And these are surrounding properties. Ms. Henry is here today if you have any questions.
I have a motion.
so moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
Next is a conditional use permit for Zachary Ainsworth at 1071 Cato Road. Mr. Ainsworth is seeking the conditional use permit to store materials for his railroad and timber company businesses on the property. It's located on the south side of Cato Road. It's a 20-acre parcel that's zoned A2. This is just an aerial view of that property. This is his site plan. He built a metal building in 2015, shown here. He also has a pole barn at the rear of the property that's used to store equipment. This is at the intersection of Cato and County Line Roads. And then this is a better view of that property. Equipment will be stored in the existing metal building, and he plans to store materials on the outside of the property, and he's recently cleared an area to the west where he plans to utilize for for materials in the future.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion?
Next item is a conditional use permit for Tanya Minor on Joe Myers Road. She's seeking a conditional use permit to place a 1999 16 by 76 manufactured home, a 12-acre parcel of family land that's zoned R1B. This is the aerial view. There are 2 other homes on this 12-acre tract. This is her site plan showing the placement of an approximate location of where the manufactured home will be located. And these are views of the 2 existing homes that are on that property now.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next item is a conditional use permit for Mary Leonberger at 443 7th Day Road. She's seeking the conditional use permit to place a 2016 16 by 78 manufactured home on the property. It's located on the east side of 7th Day Road. This is a 2-acre parcel. It's zoned RE1A. This is an aerial view of the property. Mrs. Leonberger's home is on this parcel as well. Her sister had previously lived in a manufactured home on this property but moved to be closer to her job. This is the survey that shows where that existing mobile home was that was moved when she moved to be closer to her job. She is retired, and now she wants to come back and put a manufactured home in the exact same spot.
Make a motion to set the public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next is a conditional use permit for Aaron Uthoff at 270 Green Hill Road. He's seeking a conditional use permit to place a 2013 32 by 80 manufactured home on the property, which is located on the west side of Green Hill Road. It's a 3.30 acre parcel. It's zoned RE1A. This is an aerial view of that property. His father has an existing manufactured home on the property. This is his site plan showing the father's existing home and the proposed location for the 32 by 80. This is a view of that property and the father's manufactured home, wooded area behind the existing home. And these are surrounding properties.
I make a motion to set the public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Morrison. Second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
The last item under new considerations is a conditional use permit for Ryan Murphy, Murphy Real Estate LLC. The property is located on the north side of Stull. He's seeking the conditional use permit to park equipment, trucks, and trailers from his landscape and construction company. It's a 39 point. This is an aerial view. There's an existing metal building on the property that he built in 2007 for storage. And this is a view of the property.
I make a motion to set the public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Site plan review.
There are no site plan.
Okay. Mr. Slade?
Yes, sir. First item under nuisance section is the continuation of the District 4 nuisance matter. We will reopen that public hearing. I'll ask Renee to give us any information, updated information on this particular matter.
Okay, Jim Briley with the Crossgates Benevolence Committee spoke to the board and requested some additional time to evaluate the property and see if they would be able to provide assistance to Mr. Hall. And he's here today, I believe, to speak to that issue.
Come on up, sir.
Come on.
This gentleman with the Benevolence Committee speaks. If Mr. Hall or anyone else on his behalf is here present to speak, they can make their way to the podium.
How are y'all?
Morning.
Pretty good.
We've been working with Tim. The biggest issue we had was getting him a place to stay and get some furniture. We've done that. Now we're focused on the property. We're in the process and sold. The lawn equipment's going to be picked up and stored at another location. And then I'm going to try to coordinate a cleanup with the church membership to coincide with the year spring cleanup here in April. So that's where we are right now.
Sir, I looked at the property before and
Yeah.
then again this week.
Yeah.
And I thank you for getting involved and beginning this cleanup.
Yes, sir. I just ask for your patience. Let's get it done.
Okay.
What kind of timeline?
We appreciate y'all's participation for sure.
Yes, sir.
Continue.
One issue that bears at least some
Gentlemen,
discussion.
Craig got some.
I'm sorry. Please.
I'm Tim Hall. I'm a single father, and to this point, I've moved about 3 tons of material off the property while getting moved into another place and moving that in myself. So my time has been completely tied up in this first 30 days. I am established in a new place, and I do have more time to work to be helping me.
Okay.
Continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts.
The only other issue that's going to be out there that probably needs to be addressed at some point, so it bears us keeping an eye on, is the fact that there, and Mr. Hall, you can confirm or deny this.
Yes.
I don't think there was any insurance coverage on that home.
No, sir.
Okay. And so the issue of dealing with that dilapidated structure is going to have to still be dealt with. I think it bears us watching. And
It's my understanding the church does not have the resources to remove the house.
May I say something?
Yes, sir.
The problem that we're involved is, come out for come up.
Sure.
There's going to be a bankruptcy involved in this, and we're in communication with the mortgage company, and I think there may be a possibility that he has some value here, so we're going to have to ask for some consideration there. But believe me, I'll stay involved in it until we get it completely resolved. The church is going to have a problem putting money into the property, like removing the house, if a bank is going to foreclose on the property.
Right.
So we would have a problem with that. Try to get any debris on the inside of the structure. We'll go ahead and flag it off with the tape right now, and then, but the main thing is get the property cleaned up.
Well, how long before all this takes place, the bankruptcy or decide?
I think it'd be
Bankruptcy is already in
It'd be a
progress.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go through the bankruptcy, and then
Yeah.
then it'd be kicked back to the bank for them to go through foreclosure.
So you don't want this continued to next month then?
I want to continue the cleanup until next month.
Yeah.
Let's get it cleaned up with the house taped off, and then look at this house on maybe a quarterly or whatever.
Okay. All right.
I mean, once we get the property cleaned
Right.
up, we can focus
That-
on the house. So-
There's still a good bit of stuff to clean up around the house.
Okay.
On the property.
All right.
Okay.
Well, why don't we just, provided it's obviously progress, which it has been, continues,
Yeah.
then we could just continue working with him. He could report back, I don't know, each month or give him whatever, something.
60 days, let's do 60
Yeah,
days.
60 days, and then we can kind of see it, provided to, evaluate, but it looks like it's doing
Well,
great
I mean,
justice.
my experience, I've been in the insurance industry for 42 years, and I've dealt with this type of situation in many cases, debris removal bids and stuff like that. So when we deal with the mortgage company, I personally think they're going to abandon. So, and once they do that, then he has an asset that he can function with, and then the cleanup process. But I understand what your concerns are, but we'll try to make it as presentable as possible.
Well, as long as you're making progress, I think we're all going to work with you. I mean, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Mr. Gaines is pleased.
Yes.
Thank you.
what I would suggest is that we simply continue that matter for a period of 60 days. Ms. Renee, if you can just sort of time whenever that next nuisance hearing could be, to time it out as close to 60 days as possible. Mr. Gaines, would that be your motion to continue the
Yes.
public hearing on that?
Motion by Mr. Gaines to table this item.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next item under nuisance consideration is the John Hendon, 612 Williams Road, District 1 property. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in the matter of the John Hendon nuisance property consideration. Mr. President, I don't see anyone here on that matter. Renee, if you will, demonstrate, please.
All right, we've received several complaints on this property. These pictures were taken November the 9th of 2015. These were the new pictures that were taken yesterday. The certified mail letter was not received originally, but the hearing notice was received. We've not had any contact or any response.
Is that the property that sits right close to that ditch? There's a big ditch there It
It
runs
is.
through and
It's
it.
down
when
the
it-
road a little east.
Right, when it flood, when we have big rains, a lot of this debris, and we've been out there and cleaned up the right side of the road more than once because this debris has gotten in that ditch also.
And
That's the same
across
property,
the
isn't
road
it?
There.
Huh?
That's across the road, whenever the water flows through his yard, that's where it ends up.
That's right.
across the
And
road.
we've had crews have to go out, obviously, clean up the roadside and stuff. Okay, I'm making sure I knew the exact site.
If there aren't any other comments, questions, we'll close that public hearing and be appropriate to take action.
But I'm ready to take action.
That's right.
Declare a nuisance.
Okay.
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison to declare nuisance justice court, second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
I would say the biggest problem is the fact that it won't clean it up and it's getting in the streams downstream, which is on other people's property, but also the fence and the side of the road is collecting so much of it. It's just because it's simple. Some of it is just simply garbage, bags of garbage. So,
All right. Next item, item C under nuisance, is the Emma Taylor, 155 Front Street, District 1. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if Ms. Taylor or anyone on her behalf is here to speak in the matter of this nuisance hearing. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in the matter. We'll ask Ms. Renee to demonstrate for us.
All right, this property is located at 155 Front Street. We've received numerous complaints, and we continue to receive complaints on this property. This isn't the first time that it's been before you. He will clean up, but then he reverts back. There are 3 homes on this parcel. One's a rental property, and then Miss Taylor's home is also on the property, and then they have a house that they use for storage. This is the area where they use it for storage. These are the new pictures that were taken yesterday. The rental house, there has been some cleanup, but the rest of the property has not changed.
are they still doing the selling of like garage sale? Yard? Okay.
If there's no other comment on it, then we will close that public hearing and be appropriate to take action.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody's here on that. I declare a nuisance. Move forward. This has been. But let me ask you this: this is the second or third time we've had him?
This is the second time.
Second. Okay. Okay. What?
Has it been within a year?
Well, no, because it was actually last year the first time.
Okay.
The end of last year, kind of latter part of last year.
15?
Yeah.
So it happened about 12 months.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's, yeah, because it's the latter part of it. So it's basically rolled into a new year.
Well, I think it goes by calendar from the time of our last. It's 12 months from that.
You said year, so yeah, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
He came to the last hearing, I believe, and it did not go to justice court. So there was no.
All right, okay.
Yeah, in fact, I spoke to some of the neighbors yesterday. I just came to me about it. So, the problem is a lot of unwanted traffic that goes down there, and they're looking for this place, and they're going to other people's homes, and it's created a real problem. But if I'm not mistaken, he's not been real accommodating to address any of the problems at all. So we declare it a nuisance and move on.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Marr, declared nuisance in justice court. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next item is the Larry Elliott, 144 Webb Circle, District 1 property. At this time, we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak on the matter of the Larry Elliott nuisance matter. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak on the Larry Elliott nuisance matter. We'll ask Ms. Renee to demonstrate.
All right. We had attempted to get notification to the owner and had been unable to do so. We had one address that we tried, and amazingly enough, when Dwayne went back yesterday, the house had been demolished.
Really?
So now, if they will clean up the debris, that one will be done.
Huh.
Good deal.
It's been going on for
Not
several
exactly
years.
sure who did it, but hopefully our ladder made it to the right place.
So maybe we can table it for a month?
Yeah, we need to see who's gonna clean up the rest of it. Huh.
Good start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been going on,
Long term.
before I even took that district, that section over.
Wow.
Mr. Morrison, are you going to make a motion to
Yeah, I
table
make a
that matter
motion to,
until next nuisance
Yeah, right.
hearings?
second.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Marr to table item. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next item is the Deborah Wade nuisance consideration, 730 White Road, District 1. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak on the Deborah Wade nuisance matter. Deborah Wade.
All right, this is a zoning and building violation at 730 White Road. We received a report that a structure was being built without a permit on this property. It's a zoning violation because she only has an acre and you can only have one dwelling per parcel in the RE1A. We've been told various things, that it's going to be a deer camp cabin, it was going to be moved from the property, then it was going to be a home, storage building. However, I was told that it did have a small kitchen, a bedroom, and a bath, which would make it a dwelling. It is plumbed. And then there are building code issues with the work that has been done. It doesn't meet code. I have been contacted by Mrs. Wade's sister, who lives in Arizona. She said that Ms. Wade had suffered a stroke, and so I haven't heard anything else about what they may want to do there.
Suffered a stroke here recently?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Since this started?
Since this started,
Okay.
yes, sir. Mhm.
That kind of explains why she's not here, probably. Well, the thing though, correct me, Renee, Ms. Wade really is not the one building this.
Well, she said that her cousin was building it on her property. You know, she said that he wanted to help her try to get a better home to live in.
But first it was a storage building being moved to a camp, going to be
First,
moved to a camp house.
deer cabin that
Deer
he was
cabin.
going to move.
He's going to move it, build it there and move it.
Oh, well, that don't look like it's moving.
He's going through a lot of trouble.
Hard
So
time
they
getting
need
down
to,
a few roads that
They need to get their permits?
Well,
the
zoning doesn't
real
allow a
permit?
second dwelling, so
Oh.
there's some issues with what would happen with the...
He may be correct in that it probably
It's moving.
will be moved.
Okay.
Well, yeah, see, it's a second dwelling, then actually we put 2 stop work orders for it. Came back and started putting the rest on and went back out and put a second stop work order.
Oh,
Finally stopped.
okay.
You've really
I don't
got two, sorry.
I don't really know how to,
You've got the zoning violation that is front and center.
Right.
And so I just think that your building department should be authorized to proceed with that particular violation. In addition, you have code. You've got a property maintenance code issue that is here as well, that can be covered under the nuisance part of this. And so your authorization would be that she proceeds both with zoning violation and with the nuisance consideration, whichever one or both need to be addressed at the justice court level. That'd be the appropriate form.
Okay, but what if they agree to, let's say, tear down the old manufactured home, and that they want to turn this into a small little dwelling? The problem there is there's no code. It's not any, y'all seen it. What would it have to be to bring it up to code? Is it a big expense?
Yeah, it would be a pretty good bit of expense. They'd have to go back and pour footings around it, change out some of the floor joists to treated lumber because it's sitting almost on the ground.
So I'm just thinking if they go that route, then they'll have to address
That's correct.
The codes, I think, building code. Okay.
Yes, sir. Temporary structure in place while the permanent residence is being built.
Right.
We can control that with conditions. We can do the same thing here. You gotta have somebody to deal with it. The question about what do we do in a situation where the property owner is not actually building the structure, is not the one who's directly responsible for it. The issue is that is who we have to deal with, the property owner.
Right.
So it's being allowed to happen on her property. The violation is happening on her property. That's who we have to address it to.
Okay.
My suggestion would be to go ahead and declare it a nuisance and have Renee just ship it up to justice court to be dealt with there.
Well,
Or you can take it. And let us find out some more information.
I don't know that I don't know if we're gonna have any, I don't think find out any more information than I already know. It's pretty clear. I've talked to the gentleman that doing the work on it myself.
Has the work stopped?
Yes.
It has now.
Yeah, I pass it every day.
Well,
Yeah.
Jared, what would you think about giving them a little time to see the health stroke? She may not even be living on the property anymore. And then that may take care of, help us decide.
Well, that's
We just
you're right. That's
table
what
it
I
for
was
a
sitting there
couple of
thinking
weeks or
about.
something.
As long as nothing else goes any further until we can, like I said, she may not ever, I don't know, I should say that she may not return to the property.
She was still there, her sister said at that time, but now she was unsure of what would happen. You know, she said she might have to bring her to Arizona to live with her, so she was a little unclear.
All right.
How many acres is there?
One.
Oh, so no matter what, that building's gotta go.
Right. Or one building's gotta go.
One or the other.
Well, I mean, from what you said, they're gonna have to do some major reconstruction if they're gonna go with this one.
Yeah.
Basically, they'd have to tear it down and start over.
Part of it, yes, sir.
Well, then let me hold up, let's see, because either way, well, no, they wanted to tear it down with it, if they wanted to.
Does dismantle the bottom of it.
Huh?
Just to do the floor joist, you wouldn't have to get all that weight off the top first.
No, he can redo that, and I got to pour a continuous footing all around it where it's sitting on.
Yeah.
So the last going to be jacked a little bit, and set it back down on top of some blocks or something.
So it could be brought up to code as it sits.
Or we could allow it just to be a storage only.
Yes.
Take out the
Good.
plumbing.
Take out the plumbing.
Take out everything and just be a big storage building on the front porch. Yeah, really.
But no matter what, they're not here, so we can't address it with them in absent.
Right.
So I think our best shot's to go ahead and move it on up justice court so we can move forward. Unless you want to go over and visit with them and come back with us next meeting.
I don't think visiting with them right now. I just need to know I don't know her health though. Can we just leave it as it is for 30 days?
30 days out.
Yeah, let me do that.
All right.
Okay.
You want to make it a motion?
Yeah. I make a motion to table this for 30 days.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second.
table.
Motion.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right. Building code. What is that about, Renee?
We need to adopt the 2012 building codes, and at the last meeting, you instructed me that we needed to discuss it, so we would like to discuss it today. I just had a little bit of information. Right now we're currently working under the 2006 International Building Code. The state adopted a minimum to adopt a minimum any of the last 3 editions of the International Building Code. We want to adopt the 2012. Roy had previously planned to adopt it when he was here, and he had already purchased, and our inspectors have been attending training classes on the 2012 code. Several of the other jurisdictions in the county have already adopted the 2012, and this would keep us in line with them. Part of what we would plan to adopt would be the International Building Code, the Residential Code, the Fire Code, the Fuel Gas Code, Plumbing and Mechanical Codes, and the International Property Maintenance Code. I have a draft ordinance that I put up there for y'all with some of the changes. One of the things in the residential code, is to remove the section that requires an automatic fire sprinkler protection system in 1 and 2 family dwellings.
Yeah.
The state excluded that, and also the other jurisdictions have excluded that as well. We are adding a section in on the fire code. We met with Brett Ishii and Brian Grantham also and talked about the fire code. And one thing that had come up was about support the weight of the fire trucks. And so Craig gave us a statement to include in that section that we are wanting to include. And also we're going to add a section about the fire sprinkler riser to provide adequate clearance of 3 feet so they will have room to work when they respond.
The changes that are being made, how are they going to impact the developers in any way? Builders?
There will be some changes. One thing that's new to the code, the 2012, is the addition of the carbon monoxide detectors, arc faults. So there will be some changes that affect them. However, if they're going to work in Brandon or the other jurisdictions in the county, you know, we will be on the same similar.
Yeah, I would just want to say we make sure to notify them so they know what to be expecting.
Okay.
You keep a list that we do work with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If y'all have any other questions, technical questions, John is here. He can answer anything y'all have.
There's nothing we got to decide on now, right?
I have a question. PRV adopted in 2015. What's the difference between 2012 and 2015?
2015 is a newer version, and we were going to go to the 2012 mainly because we already have purchased the books. We'll still meet the requirements of the state, and we were going to training on that. There isn't training right now for the 2015. We have a guy at a class today, an electrical code class on the 2012 today and tomorrow.
Okay.
And you know, most of the jurisdictions here in the county have gone to the 2012 as well. Brandon did. Richland has already gone to the 2012. I think Pearl and Flowood may still be in the 06. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll have everyone review this and maybe.
Okay. So I can place it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
The 15th or
15th. It's too late to put it on our
Yeah.
Monday agenda.
I think
Thank
that'd
you.
be best.
Thank you. All right. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 28th. I have a motion to recess our planning meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison. Second by Mr. Morrow. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, we're going to call to order our Board of Supervisors meeting. And we have a couple people here for public comment. Mr. Armstrong, come on up.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning. I'm here to speak to you as a preliminary discussion on behalf of an application on my part for a conditional use permit for a new dirt pit on Mount Elm Road. There's a critical need, as you know, for an affordable supply of dirt material in this Flowood Reservoir, Brandon area. I understand that there have been some problems on Mount Elm Road recently, and some concerned citizens who live on Mount Elm Road, the result of this Lakeland Drive project, during which they have hauled with trailer trucks at night, and they've had a problem with at least 3 trucks running off the road and being turned over, and they've kept the residents up at night and been quite a nuisance. Trucks have been operating on Mount Elm Road for, to my knowledge, well over 15 years. The road has held up well, and other than a few times where, you know, there's a problem or some speeding happens, you know, I think that generally hasn't been this kind of nuisance until this recent situation with the Lakeland Drive job. The owner of the property that I'm pursuing is Mr. Robert McIntyre, and he lives on 361 Mount Hill Road. This property is between the old Fannin landfill and a piece of property that has already been mined out by Kelly Foster, right next to the gate to the 15-acre parcel in between there. It's my contention that this new pit won't increase traffic on Mount Hill Road. I have scoured this area for 2 years looking for a new supply of dirt. I have looked from Andrew Chapel Road to above Sand Hill to 471 to Stump Ridge Road and everything inside that circle. And either the dirt isn't there or it's not in the situation where dirt can be mined. Other than about a third-mile stretch of Mount Hem Road where these residences occur, this is actually a very good area for this kind of operation. There's a large debris pit that Mr. Fauché operates and 2 other dirt pits that have been operating there for years. Once you get back into this back area, it is quite an industrial complex, and there are no neighbors or there aren't any houses or residences nearby that really create a nuisance, but the nuisance is created near that area. You know, the problem is the stretch of road where these residences live as we access Lakeland Drive. It's my contention that you can operate a dirt pit and still be a good neighbor. I've been operating a dirt pit on Stoll Road for over 4 years now. I came before you then and received the conditional use permit. There are 2 neighbors that live between Lakeland Drive and my pit, and I've spoken with them all. I spoke with them during this time I pursued the permit and assured them that I would be a good neighbor, that I would manage speeding, that I would keep dust controlled, and I would do everything that I could to make sure that I was a good neighbor to them. They have both said that they would be willing to produce something in writing if that would help to say that I have done what I... My contention is that these residents do need to be considered. They don't need to be cast aside or not considered in this. It's important enough for all of the people who operate in that area, to make sure that we are good neighbors. I have been mining dirt from Fauché's pit for the last year as my supply in Spill Road has eased up. If I can't open up this new pit, I will be forced to continue to mine there or purchase dirt from Mr. Kelly Foster. There is no alternative that is cost effective that won't increase cost for dirt in that area by 30 to 40% as it pushes us even further out in our hauling costs. So my contention is that it's important enough to continue to have a cost-effective supply for us to be good neighbors. I think I have a track record where I've done what I said I would do, and I would do so in here. I can't help but believe that everybody else that's involved back there would be willing to pitch in and do the same thing. We can manage our drivers if we put our minds to it. You know, the drivers are hired by us. If they don't cooperate, they can be fired. We can manage the dust, we can keep the road watered, and we can be a good neighbor. So, again, just wanted to speak on behalf of an alternative perspective on this issue, and as I make plans to come before you to make application for a conditional use permit.
You mentioned that this would not increase traffic.
Because I'm presently hauling from that area now.
Are you not going to sell any dirt to anyone else? Or is this just for you?
I will sell to others, but my point is that is where dirt is coming from anybody in the area. The only other operating pit nearby is...
So how's this going to produce more dirt? You're saying we need more dirt for the building around.
But I don't think this
it's going
increases.
moving from... I understand.
I mean, I'm presently mining in that area.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where I'm getting my dirt, because I've run out of dirt on my pit in Stowe Road. So, you know, the same traffic will continue to. I will have to buy dirt from someone else if I can't open up this dirt. So that's where the dirt is coming from. It's where it will continue to come from. But I do think that we could probably be better neighbors on that road than what has happened. And I would be willing to do more than my share.
Do you know that we've been faced with, this room had quite a number of people from Mount Helm, and we have a petition, I don't remember how many names, but probably 40 or 50, not all lived on Mount Helm Road, that was asking us to stop the traffic and reroute. Can you get to this area without traveling down Mount Helm? Can you come in from a different direction?
We can, but it would effectively create over a 30% increase in cost because of the time involved in leaving Mount Helm Road, going east, not want to route traffic toward Hollybush. You would probably want to route it towards Stowe Road and come out that way.
Well, the very man that you say is selling you this has a petition here and has really come before this board hard that we reroute traffic, and he's selling you this land knowing that you're going to put a dirt pit on it?
Well, this transaction has happened since then.
No, I talked to him this week. This week. And he was asking me where we were at as far as rerouting or stopping this pit from operating. Now, we were going to stop one from operating and sell you some land by him. It sounds almost fraudulent.
I have a contract, signed a contract.
Well, I'm not saying that between you and him is not a contract. I'm just saying.
He certainly had issues, and we discussed them just like we have this morning. And I assured him and his wife that this situation.
Dr. McIntyre.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little confused too, but.
I'm more than confused.
But this is.
I'll tell you what, get Dr. McIntyre, those 50 on that petition, to come back and tell this board that they want this dirt pit open.
Well, I'm sure that they won't want the dirt pit open. I don't think, we've all referred to dirt pits over the years as a necessary evil, right?
Well, there's also something called environmental justice, where we don't go and do all our dirty work in a lower income area and stay away from the preferred people or places or races. And I think before we would go in here with what we're facing now with these, petitions and Dr. McIntyre and with what they're putting in front of us now, before we could think about opening another pit, we would have to do this environmental justice study to make sure, because there is, through the federal Department of Justice, there is some, I guess you could say, we would lose in. If these people have told us and showed us how they do not want this going on and how bad it's treating them as far as their rest and health, and then we come back and just overlook everything they've said. And now when you tell me the very one that's complained the most and said he's treated people for health reasons because it is one selling you, it puts me in a circle. A terrible loop.
Really?
Well, as I said, this is obviously a preliminary discussion.
Yeah. Well, I would say get back with Dr. McIntyre, because he is our contact with this whole road and he's brought this problem before us and addressed us. And I'll put us on notice that there's going to be some action taken if we don't stop the traffic through there.
Are y'all considering stopping all traffic on Mount Helm Road?
I can't tell you what we're considering. We have not, I have not discussed that with anyone, stopping all traffic. I want to manage it as well as we can, and we have done that through our sheriff's department and others.
Sure. And that's all I'm asking.
You want us to stop it all?
No.
Oh.
What I'm trying to relate to you is that for dirt in that area.
I know, but this gives the appearance that a group or a man comes in here and asks us to stop allowing these trucks to go in here and operate as a dirt pit, and a month or 6 weeks later, he is selling some land to another person to open up another pit. It almost looks.
Well, we certainly have to resolve that.
Yeah.
Apparent
Okay.
conflict, but
I would resolve it before I bought it. Did you plan on hauling dirt on it?
Well,
Yeah.
And I do. I plan on-
Yeah.
We're certainly gonna resolve it first.
Thank you.
But, all I'm saying is, I don't wanna be a part of something that appears to be prejudicial.
Well, me either.
But I'm just saying, that's the area where the dirt is, and
Well,
it happens to be.
There's dirt all over, I mean, there's dirt everywhere. But there's a availability to dig it there, and I understand this, I understand it totally, but we have a whole community that is up in arms, and some of the stuff they rightfully have some problems with. I would too, if dump trucks were coming down my road at 11 o'clock at night.
And of this night.
But you gotta realize that the very one that's heading the charge to us is now gonna sell you some land to add to that problem?
Well, let's assume that issue was resolved in some fashion.
Bring those 50 people in here on that petition.
With him?
Yep, with McIntyre.
Yeah.
And let's talk
I
about it.
can't bring all those 50.
Well, let's get a majority of them.
Yeah, I'll certainly,
Put the word out, they'll be here.
All I'm asking for is, it's a fair shake as a businessman in this area, not to be negatively influenced as far as my opportunity is concerned.
Well, we're not. Now, before you
There's
get...
gotta be a way that everybody can win in this, is all I'm saying. I agree with you. These people don't need to be cast aside. They need to be considered. But I
But
can't help it.
you're hauling there now, and you're still hauling, and you would continue hauling, if you didn't have the other.
You're just
I mean,
having to
that's
pay
not
for the
gonna
dirt
change
that
anyway.
you're getting now, where if you bought this land, you'd be paying for the land and you'd have the dirt.
Sure. So it's a business
And
opportunity.
somebody may be buying it from him.
Right. I mean, it's the same dirt and maybe a few more trucks, but, well, I say...
Bobby, you can definitely see where we're coming from, though,
I do drive calls, and these people have apparently not been treated very fairly. And it's come to a head, and, here I am, at the wrong time.
Well, it sure smells that the very guy leading the charge now is wanting to sell his property and do the very thing that, he says he don't want.
But I can assure you that he has, and he signed a contract, so...
Well, I'm not doubting you.
No, it seems to me like a plan, a wonderful plan. If I was the one that was gonna own the land now that was gonna be the only dirt pit operating, if we would've followed their lead and shut down that dirt pit a month ago, and then here this one comes in and opens up, that's a heck of a business plan. I just don't wanna be a part of it.
Well, it's only 15 acres. It ain't gonna be there that long.
That's not my plan. I had no knowledge of some conspiracy to shut down everybody else. I didn't know that y'all were considering shutting everybody else down. I thought I was the only one that was not going to be offered an opportunity. So just pleading my case for a way for everybody to win in this. And I know they're concerned and they're upset, and they have every right. But I still confess that there is a way. I've always felt like that there is a way, for everybody to win in the situation, and I need to have, a level playing field as a business opportunity and a businessman myself in this area. And that's all I'm asking. I'll move forward. I will.
Well, you can tell we got some bridges crossed, so.
Sure, I do. And that's why I'm here this morning, is to get a discussion started, see where we are, and let's see if we can't come up with something that, can be a win-win for everybody. But it is an important issue, not just for me, but for building in this area. I'm here to tell you that there is no alternate supply that can be mined. It's not in an area that's not on Lakeland Drive, and it's a high-priced parcel that, mining would devalue the property to the point where it couldn't be. I have been all over that area and all off of the road in that area.
All right, Bobby, we need to get going.
Okay, thank you, appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next on our public comment, we have Chief Terry Wages. Thank you for being patient with us, Chief.
I'm sorry, Board, good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Before the board about, I guess last month, it was. But we were able to schedule a meeting with Commissioner Chaney fairly quickly.
Yeah.
It was last week. A list of questions so we could go through the Q&A and have time for discussion at his meeting. However, it did last a couple hours. We got once one question was answered, we get into 3 or 4 more. So anyway, just to get right to it, I want to bring at least the first 4 up, which really affects the fire rating within our county. And then any questions you might have that I may not have thought of. There's been a couple come up since I left, but I think I can answer them effectively now. All right, the first one was what we talked about with the new State Farm grid system coming online, how that was going to affect our public protection class. The answer to that is that within the algorithm that's used, that State Farm uses initially, they develop a rate that is an initial rate. Once they're through that initial rate, they enter in what they call external data, and once they do that, the parts of the algorithm that don't include water supply, fire protection districts, jurisdictional lines, those type things are entered into the rate, which generates a pure rate. Now this is insurance terms. I'm just telling you what we discussed. Once they develop that, they've incorporated all the data within the county or the city or whatever it may affect. Now, the grid system does take in areas, which is 256 square acres as it expands. And they're doing that to incorporate fire loss within those areas, and they've got a criteria to meet to incorporate a certain amount of fire loss that averages out the rate statewide. You follow me so far? Okay. Our concern was that our public protection classes would go away. Now, I've done a lot of research on this, and I reached out to 5 different states, and so far I haven't found any negative effect on the fire service and emergency response because of the grid system. Most of the states just don't really know yet, because they say, what the research I've done, they're saying that long term we may see some effects, but we haven't seen any. The public protection class, however, is based on the ISO standard that they go out and see where your fire departments are, your manpower, water supply, training, all those things that we're used to in public protection class. Now, all that is included within the grid according to the Commissioner's office. And he showed me where within the policy that they signed, it had it lined out, fire station locations, manpower, volunteer, full-time, water supply, those type of things. So, does that answer the part about the public protection class? All right, the second one, y'all good on that so far? Okay, the second one was funding that we get on fire insurance rebate. Would that be affected? That was a big question. According to the insurance commissioner, it will not. That's still going to continue just like it does now. Now, we all know State Farm holds about 25% of the policies within the state, homeowners, autos, and so forth. That's a large amount of policies, some 300,000 policies within the state. So they have a huge economic stance within our state. So the insurance department is working with them to try to come to down every little avenue that they did years ago. They have a base system to conduct a initial rate and then work backwards from that is what this was meant to do. Now, according to the Commissioner's office, the statewide average on State Farm policies will see a 4.8% decrease in their rate. Now, that's statewide. Now, why I want to brief the board on this is if you have anyone call that sees an increase in their policy through State Farm, they may see one. His advice to me to give to you was that is based on adequate fire protection in the surrounding area and fire loss within that grid. They have the ability to shop outside of State Farm's market or policy to go to other companies. The problem with that is if all the other companies develop the same type of algorithm, what do we do at that point? And according to him, he doesn't believe that all the companies are going to go to something like this. They may in the future. That's hard to anticipate or even get. The fact is the system and the way we're doing it is changing, and we're going to have to adjust to how we fund our departments and analyze our data as it comes back. Now, this grid will identify areas in our districts that aren't adequately protected. So you're going to see that come out. If any of you ever heard of what they call urban rating, it's a system where a particular area may get a Class 8 rating, but actually is a 9 or maybe even close to a 10. The insurance companies some of them use this, and I don't have the names, this is just what I got from them, may use this to get a lower rating to be competitive to get that customer into a homeowner policy. This system will eliminate that. It's going to take in the longitude and latitude of the home. It's going to analyze the fire loss within a certain area, depending on how far it has to expand. Then it's going to come back and enter the external data, and it's going to generate a rate, just like that. Now, the last thing we had was, does our jurisdictional lines have any influence on fire rating and insurance policies within our counties and districts? For example, if you have a fire loss a mile outside of Brandon, significant fire loss, will that affect homeowners insurance through State Farm in the city of Brandon? The answer to that is, when we go back after the algorithm and the external data is plugged in and shows the jurisdictional lines in a protected district, which will be the city of Brandon, and their resources, then the answer is no, it would not make the homeowner policy within the city go up. Okay? Now, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Those are, I think I covered all four of the main questions that I felt like would be the main concern. We talked about a lot more. In closing, we had a guarantee. It was myself and Chief Brierstadt from Gulfport who attended. He sits on our Fire Chiefs Association board, executive board, and Chief Wilburn's here. He's our representative for the assurance there will be strict oversight on this system as we move forward. I've talked with the members and the leadership within the fire service for the state, and we can assure you from our standpoint that we're going to be very aggressive in watching this through the next few months and years to make sure it don't come back and hit us. If in fact we see negative funding or any other type of negative, what's the word I'm looking for? Anything, repercussions from this grid system hitting the fire service and affecting our responses, then we're going to go to Commissioner Cheney and remind him of his oversight.
Terry, is this the same grid proposal that was brought up before the election?
It was. It's actually been being used as a trial system since 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been around in the state for quite a while, almost 3 years, and there's been discussion about it for about that long. We have set aside some time at the summer's Firefighter and Chiefs Conference in June to have a forum to discuss this further, just to make sure we're covering all our bases on it. We're going to really do a lot of research on this and keep doing research. Spoken with MML and the Mississippi Association of Supervisors, executive boards. They're aware of what's going on. So it's not tucked over in the corner anymore. Everybody knows what's going on with it. But now, right now, just keep in mind, this is just State Farm that uses this policy, or this system.
Currently?
Yeah, currently.
All right.
So, any questions y'all may have, concerns about that?
I'm sure we all got plenty of concerns.
Yeah. Well, if anything comes up that we feel like is detrimental to our service within the county and districts, we'll be coming back before you.
Thank you,
but
man.
if you don't hear from us, just know that we're staying on it, tracking it, and everything's going like we think.
Very
Okay?
good.
Thank you.
Terry. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have
Good morning.
Good morning.
oh, Derek.
Good morning. We have
That's your
bid
job,
opening
by
for
the way.
the collection of household hazardous
Open
waste.
them.
Open them.
It's one of them on-the-job things you gotta learn, you know. Bring a pocket knife with you to the board meeting.
Right, the first bid this morning is from Trade B Technical. Or just Trade B, I'm sorry, Trade B Environmental. Read out each one. All right, I'm gonna list out per pound on each thing. Flammable liquids bulk, 26 cents per pound. Flammable liquids loose pack, 76 cents. Oil-based paint loose pack and cubic yard box, 66 cents per pound. Latex paint loose pack on pallets, 30 cents per pound. Pesticides loose pack, $1.10 per pound. Corrosives, loose pack, 98 cents per pound. Oxidizers, loose pack, $1.84 per pound. Oil bulk, 23 cents per pound. Antifreeze bulk per pound, 23 cents. Aerosol cans, loose pack, $1 per pound. Mercury lab pack, $5.06 per pound. Alkaline batteries, loose pack, $1.06 per pound. Nickel cadmium, loose pack, $1.06 per pound. Lead acid batteries, loose pack, 81 cents per pound. Fluorescent light bulbs, $1.11 per pound. Labor per person per hour, they include that in the disposal. Mobilization per person per event is 1,740.
Mouthful, Bridget.
Yes, it is.
It's like there's only 3 of these.
The second proposal is complete environmental. Aerosols, $2.22 per pound. Corrosives, $1.26 per pound. Poisons, I skipped. Oxidizers, $1.65 per pound. Poisons, $1.35 per pound. Flammable liquids, loose packed, $1.25 per pound. Flammable liquids bulk, 30 cents per pound. Oil, sorry, I'm getting old. Oil, 25 cents per pound. Batteries, $1.30 per pound. Mercury, $5.15 per pound. Mercury containing lamps and bulbs, $1.90 per pound. Hazardous and non-hazardous paint loose pack, hazardous paint bulk, 45 cents per pound. Miscellaneous, $5.50 per pound, and fluorescent light bulbs, 49 cents per linear foot. It didn't include a price for mobilization or labor, so I'm assuming it's included. I have to review it further, but they didn't list it out.
Included.
Oh, okay, sorry, it is included.
They included the labor and mobilizations. They did not give a price, so we're going to assume it's included in the prices schedule.
All right. We have one more?
Yes.
One more. Sorry, I'm dropping down.
Tighten up, Craig.
You see why the engineer is usually responsible for this, right?
Or at least our road
Lawyer
man.
can't handle it.
Yeah, but remember, George did get cut one time. We needed Band-Aids.
While y'all are opening that, just from my ignorance, this is collection of household hazardous waste. Is this when we find it as the county?
We have a grant for this, and they bring it in on the particular day we set, and this is what they're
Cleanup
charging
time.
us to haul it off.
Our cleanup time.
That one will come up in
You
April,
know,
right?
Okay.
Third week of April.
It's
Okay.
in,
I don't know the
what are the
dates.
dates?
Right, right. And then if they were bringing it to a location where
The location.
they're
which
not
ones?
going out to the house to get it.
No.
No, it's
We
for
got
them to
like
bring it into a
several.
multi-purpose building is where they'll have the
Some of
event.
it is dropped off during the
Yes.
year, and it has to be stored. They wrap it, the guys at the barn do, and it's set there, plus people bring stuff on Saturday.
Okay.
So, for instance, you got anything like that
Right.
you want to get rid
well,
of?
I've seen the times you could, at different locations,
Yeah.
take debris or even tires, but I didn't realize that it included
All that?
all that. But, yeah.
The one day, the household hazardous waste, that will be done up at the multipurpose facility. That will be the location that all that has to be brought to.
I understand.
All right.
Are ready?
Yep.
The final proposals from Care Environmental. There's no charge for mobilization and labor. For flammable liquids, price per pound, 21 cents. That's bulk. Flammable liquids loose pack, 60 cents per pound. Oil-based paint loose pack, 50 cents per pound. Latex paint loose pack, 30 cents per pound. Pesticides loose pack, 85 cents per pound. Oxidizers loose pack, 0.099 cents per pound. Oil bulk, 20 cents per pound. Antifreeze bulk, 20
cents per pound. Aerosol cans, loose pack, 85 cents. Mercury lab pack, $3 per pound. Alkaline batteries, loose pack, 85 cents per pound. Nickel cadmium, loose pack, 85 cents per pound. Lead acid batteries, loose pack, 50 cents per pound. Fluorescent light bulb, 80 cents per pound. Recommend those be taken under advisement.
All right, motion by Mr. Cross to take these under advisement.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Bridget. Derek?
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, that's good to hear.
The road department would like to ask for a budget amendment to cover the purchase of new computer equipment to replace outdated equipment and to help us get the City Tech software up and running, which covers our work orders.
Anybody else? What's your gains? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Hey, Craig, I want to add, let's start off with our ambulance. Since everybody's here, we're going to address that and they can all leave. We got a lot of people here obviously interested in it. So
Good idea.
we have our gentleman here from Pafford. Y'all like to come up and talk to us and see where we are and how we can get things rolling.
My name is Keith Carter. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Pafford EMS. And we just wanted to, we've had some different revisions. I think I've counted 4 different revisions of a contract for us providing exclusive ALS and BLS, emergency and non-emergency ambulance services to the remainder of the county, and including the entire county and the cities of Brandon and Pearl, which we serve currently now with our ambulances. I was able to email that late yesterday evening to Mr. Schley. I think he's forwarding that out to you guys, but we've diligently looked at this from a business aspect and a clinical aspect of providing ambulance service to the rest of the county and trying to put in a logistical system on a no-cost contract to provide this service that we feel is very needed for the entire county. We believe we can put a system in that we can provide this service that has not been provided in many, many years to your county. There hasn't been a good solution, and we think that we've come up with this solution. This is a working solution. It's not something that times will change. Cities, the county will be more populated in some areas between now and the length of this contract. We know this is a working piece of logistical work that we can't solve it today, that it would be the same in 5 years, but we want to work towards a solution. But we're to the point to where we would like to bring this up next week, Monday, on the agenda for a vote of our proposed contract to provide this service for you. I know we've got a lot of emergency responders, fire departments that have had a lot of input, and we've looked at this diligently with our staff and what we want to be able to do and what we currently have here in the county to provide this service for you.
All right. Very good. We don't really have any details on it now, but I do know that there was a couple of things that was a major point, and one being have a local online or offline medical control doctor here. Is that something that we're going to be able to make happen?
We are. We have a current board-certified emergency physician that's actually our chief medical officer. He's on staff at Singing River in Pascagoula, and we've used that for the last year with a number of ambulances that we have. Currently, in this week, we've expanded our coverage area of service for the next couple of months. Monday, Madison County did vote to start an ambulance service with Pafford around May 10th to May 15th. And we'll be putting 6 ambulances in Madison now, in Pearl and Brandon. And then if the county voted for us to come on board here, we would have about 15 to 20 ambulances here in this central Mississippi area. And that would allow us to be able to have bargaining power with either the central EMS district here, local hospitals. We've actually got other hospitals other than UMMC that are interested in providing medical control for us and our ambulance service. So in this contract, we have agreed that we would use physicians and medical control locally in the central Mississippi area, but there's a lot of options that are on the table. Okay. I've actually talked to Dr. Deschamps, who runs the EMS district, and we've looked at pricing and availability of using their protocols, and that's something that we would bring to the county. One solution is that we could use some of our EMSOF funds that are allocated to us. We would be able to use those funds to pay for the EMS district to be put on those protocols so that everybody would be in the county would be able to use those protocols through us. We could use our own funds for that. They're allocated through EMSOF. That's a solution that we've looked at, and we were happy with that.
Did you say Madison was 6 buses or ambulances?
Yes, sir. We signed the contract Monday morning. We're going to provide ambulances available in that county for daylight and surge ambulances. Again, that's a working contract because we don't really know exactly the call volume up there and what's needed, so we're going to be able to upstaff or downstaff as we need to. We've ordered 6.
Half of Rankin, is that right?
Actually, their population is around 100,000. Rankin's 150. Yes, sir. So we're going to be serving around May 15th. You know, if you guys vote us in at that time period, about 250,000 people would be serving.
All right. Well, we definitely will look at it, and hopefully Monday we will be able to move forward.
Perfect. I'll answer any questions if I need to. Anything?
I don't.
Right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We've got to push that out to you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Morning, gentlemen. First item under my section, Mr. President, is the a discussion of the status of the Stonebridge subdivision matters. I want to start by reminding you guys,
Wait just a minute. I guess they.
Hey, before the fire chiefs leave, I have a question.
Good.
Is Monday realistic for us to be able to review this contract and vote, or maybe 2 weeks or the next one?
It may be a little aggressive, but quite honestly, Steve, the documents that we're looking at here have already been reviewed, so we're really talking about changes to existing language that has already been reviewed once. It's possible that we can get it pushed out to you guys and to the chiefs and let them start looking through it, the chief committee to start looking through some of these. I've made some notes from early this morning, which was my first opportunity to get into it, and I've got a listing. I've got a listing of about 8, 9, 10 different areas of the agreement where I think there probably still is some discrepancy between what the chiefs had discussed and what Pafford is indicating its willingness to do. So we do need some time. I would tell you from a practical standpoint, I'd be a whole lot more comfortable if we were aiming for an April 15 meeting.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I was assuming that we didn't make a lot of changes, that everything we had asked for was in there.
Yeah, I think there's probably we're really paring it down now to about 6 or 8 discussion points that I think are going to need some time.
If I'm going to say, if these guys have an opportunity to look it over and can get back with us, I don't want to be in the position we were the last time where they were left out.
Right.
And I'm talking about the volunteers also.
Exactly.
At least we will know. I mean, I want to at least have an opportunity to know what's in it, and then they can, whether or not we can satisfy everything, I don't know, but
if we could look at that.
And that's pretty quick now.
Yeah, April 15th would be quick as well. If we can look at that April 15th meeting, I think that gives us plenty of time to get a Chiefs Committee meeting scheduled and have everybody ready.
Well,
to talk.
can you notify those guys not to come Monday then? I hate for them all the way over here and waste their time.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Does that sound good for you all? We want y'all to be on board with this. Okay. Good deal.
Guys, we may have to get your help. May not need more than a couple of you to be involved at any particular point in the process, as we normally that's our normal course. But we'll figure out how to make sure everybody who wants to be involved in a meeting can get involved in a meeting.
Let's see how fast you can run through the rest of this.
No, I think so.
I'll try my best to hurry through it. Let me do it this way, Mr. President, if I may. Discussion item on the Stonebridge subdivision matter. Just a quick reminder, that's a matter involving litigation. If you will defer, we have executive session material. I'd love to discuss that matter with you in executive session, since it involves litigation. So if we can pass that item to executive, that'd be good. Next item is a discussion.
And we can do executive session after we do the second demo this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
The item B is a discussion of some work that may or may not be required on what's called some common areas in the Live Oaks Place subdivision. Y'all are familiar with this, it's District 3. This particular piece, it's a subdivision within the subdivision which was developed, by the way, by an entity called Live Oaks LLC, or Live Oaks Place LLC. That entity is defunct. It no longer exists. It was Terry Jenkins. The late Terry Jenkins was the developer of Live Oaks. There are two pieces of property that compose a large area of acreage that is a drainage structure through this subdivision. There are houses on either side of this drainage ditch. That drainage ditch, because it's private property and has been controlled by folks that bought the property at tax sale after Terry died, his estate disclaimed any interest in the properties that were controlled by the LLC. It's been in no man's land. It's sold for taxes. One of those buyers has since had that tax sale undone. It's now back in the name of the developer. The other piece of the property is subject to a nuisance hearing that we will be having in an upcoming meeting. I don't know exactly when that's scheduled, but it's out there on the calendar. So what you've got is a ditch that has been allowed to grow up, has not been maintained, and as a result, the drainage, the flow through there, especially during rain events, I'd be curious to know what happened last night, it has resulted in inundation of water into the public areas, the streets, and the areas that are publicly controlled, the areas of public drainage. This makes it somewhat unique and differentiated from other areas where we have drainage issues that result, but they are not impacting the public facilities. Is everybody clear about that? So in this particular case, I think Bob's got some photos. This one's a little bit different in that the water is in fact infiltrating directly onto public infrastructure. The question then becomes, is it of a sufficient jeopardy to that public infrastructure to justify the board, making a finding that the county needs to attend to that maintenance issue to clear up what's happening on the public side? Okay, so that's what's before you. That's what the discussion point is. So I want to give you a quick understanding. We have invited the individual that is owning the property she bought at tax sale, has been allowed to go into a state of disrepair. So that's upcoming. So one option that you have is to wait for that to play out and see what happens there. But you're still going to have the other part of the ditch that is currently owned by someone who's deceased, whose relatives won't have any part of it.
What I'm going to propose, Mr. Culp here in the yellow shirt is the president of the Homeowners Association out at Live Oaks, and we've been in discussions. Ultimately, we want to get these properties into the HOA, and Mr. Culp is working diligently and talking with Ms. Tucker, I believe that right? Renee's her name, Rachel Tucker, who has this other tract, and she's willing to convey or work out something with the HOA to get it into the HOA's name. We still have to work out the Live Oaks situation. What I'm proposing is, and Dale has had a guy go out and look and see what it would take to mulch and just take it all the way down and clean it up, not do any actual movement of dirt, but just actually just clean up the ditch area. My objective is, once we get it into the HOA's name, I would like to ask the board to have permission to, but Mr. Culp, on behalf of the board, has stated that he wants some assurances that if they do go and seek ownership of these things, the county will at least make an attempt to clean up the ditch, you know, as an initial goal. And then going forward past that, once we do our work, then it becomes the obligation of the HOA to maintain said ditch.
We're just cleaning it at one time.
That's right. We're getting it one time, getting it shaped up. Now, when we get out there and mulch it, I'm going to ask that Buster go take a look at it and make sure there's not some other things that may not be, you know, straightening it up, cleaning it up, maybe a little bit better banking and maybe some things like that to help. We won't solve the problem out there, but I think we'll greatly improve the situation and getting the water staying within the boundaries of this ditch, hopefully, and stay out of the streets and the bridges out there.
This goes without saying, really, but I'm going to say it anyway. There needs to be a very considered discussion and opinion because it is private property. Mm-hmm. There are very limited justifications where the county can expend public dollars on private property. You have to attenuate that finding to jeopardy to public infrastructure. In other words, if the county does not tend to this, the public infrastructure, which we do have responsibility for, will in fact be degraded or deteriorated to a point where it's going to cost significantly more to deal with that than it would just to be to tend to the issue that's creating it. So hopefully everybody understands that. Anytime we have county equipment out where folks know and understand that's private property, we get questions. The inevitable question becomes, why can't you do that for us? And that is because each situation has to rest on its own factual determination.
Well, how come if it belonged to someone, he's deceased, who did he leave the property to?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that question. You'd have to get into the estate proceeding.
Well, wouldn't that be the proper way to do it, because somebody owns it?
Yes, Live Oaks LLC owns it, and that entity survives the death of the LLC. We'd have to dig into his estate to see if he in fact made any sort of distribution, and I would assume that he would, in his will with respect to his interest in that LLC. You got to dig into those documents.
Well,
I've talked to Mr. Bob about
if
this.
you don't do that, then it's still, somebody owns it, so somebody else should be responsible.
According to the land records, it's owned by Live Oaks LLC. Help me out here, John.
Okay, but so that's just vague.
As far as it concerns us, Jared, that is in fact the owner. The issue of it being a defunct entity is it's a fact. It's an interesting part of the equation. It makes it somewhat of a dilemma, because who do you contact about how to address it?
That's a pretty easy way out. Just say nobody claims it.
Yeah. What I've talked to Mr. Bob about is that in order for this property to be properly situated, the HOA is going to have to get legal counsel involved to figure out how to get the title out of Live Oaks LLC and over into the HOA. It can be done. It's going to require court action to do it, but it can be done.
And that
what we're working to do at this point is to make sure we've got it in the name of the HOA as quickly as we possibly can, so that then there is an entity who will be responsible for the maintenance of the ditch on a going forward basis.
Ken, you want to have a comment?
Yeah, my question.
Come on up and speak so that get you the microphone.
If you'll tell us who you are and where you live.
I'm the president of Live Oaks Homeowner Association. My question was, who's been paying the taxes on it? And if no taxes, then could Live Oaks not pick it up for the taxes and then go from there?
Yeah, there was an entity called JSE Incorporated, I think it was. It's one of these tax sale buyers. One of these guys who comes in on a tax sale day and just buys wholesale, buys up a bunch of properties. Once he figured out, I think, what he had, he quickly got his hands out of it. Turned out that the tax sale itself was reversed, which put it back in Live Oaks LLC. I'd have to defer to John what state of property taxes is at this state. But my guess would be they're basically unpaid. I guess we refunded JSE.
No one's going to ever run through the tax sale again. You can get ownership through it, but it'll be a tax deed. It won't be simple ownership. And I don't think the homeowners association really cares.
As I mentioned, the best way to handle this would be for the HOA to secure legal counsel and then work through whomever is representing Mr. Jenkins' estate or can be found to be responsible for his estate, and an arrangement of transferring title out of the estate over into the HOA could then be discussed. That'd be the quickest, simplest way to get it resolved. That gets it out of the estate, which is currently the record owner, into the HOA.
All right. And then pay the taxes.
The issue of the taxes would have to be dealt with.
Yeah. Okay. But from what Bob said, there is an issue with this flooding going across a county road and a bridge that is having some effect on our.
And also,
it's happened twice already.
Yesterday, somebody asked what happened, and I'd never taken this into effect, but in one of the yards, there's a sump station that helps push the sewer out.
Pump station.
Well, when this road that actually he has pictures of fills up, it's going over and covering all that up. And the gentleman told us the red light's been on every time. I said, you haven't called the 1-800 number that's on there to call. So it's actually getting into the sewer system, starting to affect that too. So, and I just found that out last night. I said the red light was on.
all of these,
yards.
all of that infrastructure, of course, is either developer controlled or HOA controlled, and depending on what the documents are. But to his point.
Well, I know the same situation though that's creating a.
I mean, we got plenty of those situations.
Yeah, all over the county.
Well, I'm just telling you another one that's flooding a daycare.
Yep.
Basically the same situation.
Right. Where we find justification, to that end, that helps us with that specific situation, but I want to be clear with everybody, members of the public, especially the board members, finding justification in this one situation does not open the door necessarily to finding justifications in other parts of the county.
It is.
They
going
have
open the door.
but it does. And so the request will come, and you guys need to be aware of it and understand that
Okay.
it may not be the last time you hear about it.
Don't be a big door.
Big door. I got several of them.
Yeah.
Never
Several
mind
of
that.
Thank you for hanging in there and working.
Appreciate it, Ken. Thank you.
There ain't no doubt. That's
All
exactly what I
right,
was
next item is consideration potential action on our Grants Ferry Parkway. Tiff?
Want a motion to set the public hearing, is that what you want?
No. Well, yeah, it is. That's right.
We're actually only, with respect to this, I tried to be as detailed as possible, so if you can read that item through there, I'll just quickly run through the highlights. It's a resolution of intent to pass an amended TIF plan. That's your first step. You got to tell the public, we're intending to do this, and you tell them the hearing date that you're intending to do it, which in this case is April the 18th. April the 18th. So we're going to recess out of the 15th meeting to the 18th at 9 o'clock in the morning, Monday. And that will be where the public hearing will be held on adoption, the potential adoption of the amended TIF plan. The TIF plan itself that is being amended, obviously it implies one's already been approved before. If this is to amend one, this was approved back for the Grants Ferry Parkway. This is a piece of a large commercial development and residential development area that extends from Highway 80 up to Grants Ferry, the connector at 471. Right, so that is the property and the area of the property we're talking about on this leg of it. This part of the TIF plan that you would be approving is identifying the area of the road and the nature of the improvements that are going to be made that would be of a public nature. In other words, public infrastructure that's going to go in. That's what a TIF plan covers. The initial TIF plan was for an outside number of $35 million. This new amended TIF plan reduces that back down to $20 million. All of the area that we're talking about is within the city of Brandon. The city of Brandon has been looking at and considering the amendment to the TIF plans being proposed. And my understanding is that on the evening of the 4th of April, they will be taking up the issue of amending the TIF plans. We asked the developer to get square with the city, since this really impacts the city more so than just about any other party. Get squared up with the city before we actually have to take action on it. It'll be reducing the amortization on the bond from a 20-year term to a 15-year term. And one other item there, remove the scope. Remove any residential property from the scope of the TIF, which would be appropriate. It only addresses the commercial side. So you're passing a resolution to have a public hearing on the 18th.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Cross.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Last item is and you can see the verbose agenda item here.
Yeah.
We were asked by the State Department of Transportation, MDOT, to have you guys pass a resolution of support so that they would submit a request for a grant funding through the Federal Department of Transportation called Fast Lane Discretionary Grant Program. I believe you've got a copy of the resolution that I drafted. I wrote directly to Jeff Ely, the state traffic engineer at MDOT, and asked him to write me back confirming that by passing this support resolution, my board would not be making any financial commitment of any kind to anybody back to me. You're simply affirming your support for their grant request.
All right.
If they get the grant money, it would free up funds that are currently dedicated to the 49 project that could be moved elsewhere. That's the whole purpose.
So
motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Miss Asta.
Thank you. The first item I have this morning is the bid opening on our vector control equipment that we surplused a few weeks ago. I have, Janice is going to get me an opener. Bridget was going to lead me first. I have one from Vector Disease Control International, one from the City of Richland, one from Mark Scarborough, and one from Gerald Kelly, and one from Joel Weaver. I can open that one, but we will not be allowed to accept the bid on that because he is a county employee, and we cannot legally allow him to bid on that.
All right.
Thank you.
You said one from Mark Scarborough. Is he in the capacity of the
Yes,
mayor, or?
I'm sure it is. It doesn't say that on there, but
Okay.
The first one is vector disease control. We will have to take these under advisement
Yes.
because I'll need to see.
How many pieces got left out?
Right.
Yeah.
This is vector disease control. Would like Colt sprayer, 491799 for 400. The RTU Permanone, 2.5 gallons, 4,250. 4-star briquettes, $600. 2005 GMC Sierra, the last for the bin, 6279 for 1750, 1,750. This is from the City of Richland. Guardian Fogger, item number 1038 for 3,200. Another Guardian Fogger, item number 0813 for 1,500. RTU Permanone, 2.5 gallons for 7,500. And the 4-star briquette tablets, 5 cases at 375. This is from Gerald Kelly, which I am not sure if there's any information. Okay, Kelly's Auto Sales. This is the 1998 Ford F-150, last four, 4665 for $1,500. 2004 GMC, last for the VIN, 3349 for 1,200. 2005 GMC, last for 6279 for 1,400. The 2003 Chevrolet Silverado, 2791 for 2,600, and the 2003 Chevy 5949, $3,100.
All right, we have a motion to take
Wait,
these under.
we have two more.
We're not done.
Okay.
Still rolling.
Thought that was it.
I'm sorry. We're just.
Not sharp or not.
It's the attorney here.
Boss lady.
This is
Hammered.
from Mark Scarborough. Guardian 3000107, 1,575. The Colt sprayer 1799 for 275. The 2003 Chevy, last for 2791 for 650, and a 1998 Ford F-150, last for 4665 for 650.
Is he doing it on behalf of the city, or is that personal?
It does not have on behalf of the city. It just has his name.
It must be taken as a personal.
Personal,
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah.
This is
This is Mr. Weaver's that I can read, but we are not allowed to accept it.
Do y'all want us to read?
I don't even have to if you don't want to.
We just
since
wanted
we
to make
can't.
sure it was opened.
Okay.
And that y'all knew about it.
And that y'all understood why we couldn't.
Okay, you
accept.
take these under advisement.
Make a motion to take these under advisement.
Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Cross. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you. I'll bring back those on April the 4th. Discussion and potential actionable estimates. I believe the lowest one was $47,000 and some odd dollars. Y'all had asked at that time if we would look and see if we could do it in-house a little bit cheaper. Had Dale run some numbers, and Johnny got some numbers for me on things that we would have to outsource. And it looks like right now our estimate on doing it in-house would be about $43,233. So we're only like $5,000 less than the lowest bid, and that does include labor of our guys, but it does not include the hourly rate for our equipment.
Yeah, that's still not.
So we're looking very comparable to the $47,000 bid that Buster, or quote that he gave us, if that is even what y'all want to do, because it's going to produce about 10 to 12 parking spots. So.
Okay, we don't have much choice. Let's go with the original.
Okay.
contract.
It's not, it can be,
Well, we need
I
some
can-
parking spots, so. Okay.
They'll find where they want to.
I got a motion by Mr. Morrow.
I move it.
All right.
the what?
The $47,000 bid that, you want to reference that, Buster, or you
We
know?
can bring, if you want us to bring that back
Back on
on
Monday?
Monday
Sure.
with
Okay.
the
All
correct
right.
amount and all,
Okay.
we'll do that.
Okay. Monday be fine.
Monday's
We got
fine.
enough
Monday's good,
today.
yeah.
And have it
Let's
spelled
move
out
on.
on the agenda. The next item I have is request for partial funding in the amount of $35,500 for software package with BIS Inc. for due process land record program and authority to amend the budget and issue the check. This is something Larry's putting in to replace what he has now with another company. This is part of the package. The total package, I believe, is around $64. He's requesting that the board pay half of this. And we additional to this, not included in the $35,000, but we also pay within the budget approximately $14,000 in maintenance, software maintenance that's included in his budget that the county gives him each year. But he's asking if we would pay part of it, and then he'll pay the remainder out of his fees.
We're gonna pay part of 35?
No, sir. He's requesting that we pay $35,500. It's
Oh.
about $64 for the total package. Tim Wallace
That's what
is
he
here with
said.
BIS if you have any questions of him concerning this package that he's going with.
Now, Larry said he was going to turn in some money this year.
Yes,
so-
he did.
Okay.
Well, is that
To offset the
later,
cost.
sooner or later,
What's that?
the turning in of the
He
funds?
has to have those funds in by April the 15th, and he's going to be turning in around 30-something thousand, 39.
Okay. So
I
we
move
got
it.
that, we got that on record.
We got a motion by Mr. Morrow to approve, second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you. The next item is request for Chancery Clerk to enter into a contract service agreement with Certified Mailing Solutions for a 3-year term process and mail the Rankin County delinquent notices. Each year, they do the cards. This is similar to what Judy did. They do them. It goes through our postage, which is part of the biggest part. But through this company, they would do everything for them, the cards and everything, the postage, which gives us a better rate because we get a bulk rate on the mailing. And so this is something, and it is part of his budget already.
So motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion?
Yeah, so we won't be doing Judy and them.
This is separate from
Oh,
Judy's.
separate, okay,
Yeah,
I
Judy
got it.
had one that she's already done similar
Right,
to
all right.
this, and this is for the delinquent notices that Larry's office sends
That's
out.
what, that was on it. Okay, all right.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
The other item I have is the review of the agenda items for April 4th that we can take up later if y'all would like to
Yeah, that'd be
move on.
good. Next, we have Mr. Frank Jackson with us today.
Need to move that down a little short.
Uh,
Good morning, Mr. President and supervisors of the board. I'm Frank Jackson with ESI. I know one's come in and, of course, introduce myself today and kind of explain to you what a reverse auction is and how we can save you money. I first recently talked to Jay in regards to some things that I've done in the past and things that I do for other counties and et cetera. The best thing is it doesn't cost the county any money. So what we do is we provide services for bids, whether it be for equipment and voting machines or anything else of that nature. We help write the RFP and et cetera and put it out to bid. Source vendors, we're in the process now of course, helping bring additional vendors in on the voting machines right now. It looks like you're going to have 4 vendors that's going to come in and give demos. But wanted to explain this to you, and you all have your packets there, and to see if you had any questions or anything that I could go over with you and explain to you how this works and et cetera. So I don't know if any of you had time to look at your packets as yet, but I'll kind of go through it. First off, what we do is and what a reverse auction is, it's of course a solution to drive the price down and save you money and to give market pricing in an active bid event. we put out the RFPs, and a couple things that are a little different in this process is we send them out to the vendors, we get them sourced, source additional vendors for you, then at that point in time take that and send, the responses are sent in to where your department heads or whatever can approve the packages before they would ever go to bid. Once they go to bid, they're in an actual live bid event, which we open up for a period of time. They cannot see other people's ranking or anything of that nature, but they can see their rank, and of course they're always bidding for to try to get in first place. Normally we'll open those bids up, depending on what type of bid it is, for 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the items. And when the bid gets down to 3 minutes of the bid, it has extensions on it. If bidding is continuing, it'll continue. The clock will reset for 3 minutes. It'll continue on. Some of the things I want to show you, in particular, some of the items that we've done in the past, and one of the and several reasons why reverse auctions work. First off, it creates transparency, not only for the supervisors on the board, but your departments and et cetera. True market value out there to where that someone will lower their price and work with you. The other thing is competitive and some weighting factors that we do, which is kind of unique to where that if you have special products, and particularly things that we've done in the past, that we use a weighting factor. As an example, privatization of the penal institutions or food service for the penal institutions. There's various things of that nature that is affected by that tool that helps you very much. Just to run through some real quick bids.
Mr. Jackson, can I
Yes.
ask you a question?
You sure can.
Are we talking specifically about the voting machines, or are you talking about bidding everything?
I'm talking about bidding additional products. It's an at-will process, okay? The county will only send bids to us that you want us to send bids to you. But we are also...
It's not locking down the county.
No,
You're
it's
not asking us to consider letting you sell
do them all.
everything
No,
that we
no,
have.
no,
Okay.
no. And we also do not only what we call reverse auctions, but we do forward auctions, let's say for your surplus and things of that nature. And I'm getting ready to do one for Heinz as an example for a 5-year equipment plan to where we're going to rotate their equipment out for and that stuff, take in their surplus, sell it, and also put an option in the bid for trade-in and then of course buy new. But I'm going to run through a couple things that we do. We do the RFP design, market research, vendor qualification, strategic sourcing, bid strategy, the bid management, and then of course we furnish you all the reports and things at the close to where your departments can take it to award or present it to you for award. I put some slides in here as far as projects that we've done and as an example. I did Hinds County's voting machine back in 2013. We saved them about $1.5 million on that total package. It was kind of a unique package, and nothing against any voting commissioners or anything, but the supervisors decided that they wanted everything under the control of the company that did it, to the precincts and et cetera. So we put that package out and of course created some good competition with that and saved them a lot of money. On the other side of that, there's a lot of equipment bids in here. There's several grants that I've done for Harrison County and everything from emergency generators to air conditioning systems and on down the line. But one of the most recent ones is and I did a comparison, and there's also some comparisons as to, and it looks like this on the back, okay? This is the term bids for Hinds County that was done just in 2015 for 2014 for 2015-2016. It has all the prices. You can kind of compare them to the prices that you got on your last pricing in your term bids. The other thing that recently I did a very large bid in Harrison, or in LaFleur County, which there again, I did all their surplus and bought new equipment, which out of their surplus, out of their surplus equipment, generated about $1.4 million in their equipment that was sold for, and then purchased about $3.5 million worth of new equipment. It works both ways. You have both options to do it, and the rest of the package is an analysis that I did for Harrison County just recently in the surrounding counties, comparing the prices as to what they've got in current fuel prices and asphalt prices and on down the line. So if you kind of take the time to look through the presentation, it will give you some good comparison as far as numbers and how it works and et cetera.
You said this was at no cost to us, but how do you get paid?
The actual vendor pays us within the bid price that they pay.
Commission, basically.
Yeah.
That's what
And it's only if it goes to award. I mean, you're in a win-win situation. If I take a bid out for you and it doesn't go to award, I don't get paid, so. Okay. And set up today, or two today.
Well, I mean, this afternoon. What
Yes.
time did you tell us to be here?
2:30 on the first one, 10:30 on the,
Okay.
or 2:30 on the
2:30
second
for the
one,
second.
10:30 on the
First.
second one.
Yeah, okay.
Our first one, I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
All right.
I know you're currently working with DeSoto County on theirs.
Yes.
And it seems to me they're kind of doing it backwards, where you've already done the RFP process and now they're coming in to do demos. Can we not, when we get ready to do our RFP, I would think we're going to do an RFP for either the direct entry machines or the paper ballots with scanners.
In all, I mean, when you look at it that way, it's a lot easier to do the RFP, because then if you want to go to a touchscreen or a mix, or whether you want to go to the optical scan just completely, it's a lot easier to do the RFP. All your vendors can, that's out there in the market today, you have 4, okay? And all of them have the capabilities to do both, or a mixture, and et cetera. So we did the demos up front in DeSoto County, just simply because that's the way they wanted to do it. And, you know, you take the instructions from the county, basically, Jay, is what you do, so.
Well, I mean, I would think we'd want to have an idea of what type of system we want before we go out for RFP.
I agree with you. It makes it much easier, believe me, so. But
if we were to try to move along as fast as possible, do you see us being able to get this done by November?
yeah, as a matter of fact, if you go, the last vendor that I spoke to today and is Hart, and they would like to, they can't make the one for the 4th, but they'd like to come in on the 11th or 12th. I called back. He's checking to see if they can make it by the 8th, as you and I discussed, and to possibly get him in here.
It wasn't, I messed up on that day. It was the 18th that we have to meet again, but.
You said 8, yeah.
Yeah, I gave you the wrong date.
It's the 18th?
18th, not the 8th.
Oh, okay.
But actually, I think that may be a conflict with some of our other folks too, so let me, we'll get with you and try to maybe do it at our first board meeting in May.
Here's the openings that we have that he gave me, Jay, and or you can take and he can do it week after next and for the next 4 following weeks. So you name the date and I'll get it set up with him for.
Hey, can I ask you one
Yes.
quick thing real fast? Just in addition to kind of what Jay mentioned to you about getting this done by the November timeframe, what's our cut date that we need to have a rough idea to go out for bid?
We need to get the RFP out by the latter part of May.
In order to be up and running? Cause
that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Almost all your companies at the current time, you can get about a 60-day delivery date on all the equipment.
And turnaround time to get that up and running to be able to be used would work?
You got to do training to all your commissioners. Yes, it is possible. Yes. Yeah. But I mean, if you get any further in May, you're not gonna make it with
Okay.
all your training and stuff for the November election.
Okay.
Okay. And then again, also, it depends on how simplified your
What
system's
system
gonna
you
be.
get, what
That's
system you
exactly it, you know, so.
All right.
We meet May the 2nd, will be
Uh-huh.
the next time that we can all be available.
That'd work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Does that fall inside the time window?
Yes. Yeah, because
Well, that'll be the last demo.
Good.
From there, we would
Gotta
all
make a
need to
decision
decide
from that point.
which
the
way
biggest,
we want
yeah,
to go.
the biggest thing in writing the RFP, I've got majority of the RFP done as far as
You
the
just need a name-
basics.
you
I
just
just
need a
need to
name.
fill in the equipment and things of that nature and go from there, so.
All right.
I mean, because I wrote one completely for Hines and wrote one for DeSoto, so.
So Frank, if we
Yes.
did not want to do the reverse bid,
Mhm.
can you still work with us on doing the RFP?
Yeah, you know, I can still work with you on the RFP.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So-
Because I don't know, we haven't discussed
Right.
this as a board yet on if we want to go that option or not, so.
That's fine.
All right.
All right, any other questions or anything I can answer for him? Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the gentleman outside? He's what? Is he outside? Can you get him, please? All right, Leslie, can we get him? We are going to now, at this point in our board meeting, get up and we're going to do a demonstration in the back of the room with our first vendor on our voting machines. We have one scheduled here now, and then we're going to recess at lunch. We have a ribbon, well, we did have a groundbreaking to go to, but it's been canceled.
Yep.
But we're going to start our second demo at 2:30 this afternoon.
Is there any way to do it earlier, now, that we're not doing a ribbon cutting?
I don't know. Yeah,
Where
I
they
haven't
coming
spoken
from?
with any of them. They're not from local, I can tell you that.
I don't know.
Are the other groups here also? Oh, well then, yeah, we probably could, Jerry.
Okay,
If they're
that's
here.
good, good thing, good.
Yeah.
Both like the doctor, then.
Well, heck, let's knock this thing out.
Well, mark on to the back of the room.
Is this the same thing we had yesterday?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play some putty maybe.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I sat in a 3-hour demo.
I think too long.
Thank you, Derek.
Because whenever I met him that day, he told me they were gonna, he didn't recommend us trying to follow. His question, I don't know, I kinda like it there myself.
Trying to sell a house Friday. Oh, Lord. We got people come look at it.
Grandmother's house?
My mother's house.
I mean, your mother's house? Well, good.
Yeah, good luck. That's a good part of the process, to get beyond.
Take that mic off this thing and use it and say, let me remind everyone. Hey, Craig, the only thing that camera you see,
Hey, sir.
How are you doing? Always good to see you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we classify that as involuntary.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you weren't there when your name was submitted.
Exactly. I have no way to defend myself.
UN, how are you doing? UN.
Yes, that's why I've got this. Everybody that's in here, let me get your attention. just so that it's clear to everyone. Oh, thank you, Ms. Janice, and clear to me too. We are still recording. This is still an active, ongoing board meeting, so we're going to use this microphone. I'll ask the gentleman with Dominion to help us with that. So just keep that in mind. Everything that is being said is being recorded. Okay. And we'll go over that again briefly. Thank you to your point, Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. This is going to be a little bit more difficult. I need one of these around my neck, because I'll have to use my hands a little bit. So if need be, I can speak really loud and hopefully it'll pick it up. So. Good morning, everybody. I guess there's a couple other folks. I'm not sure if we have to wait for them to come back. So
I'd say go ahead.
Yes. So what my goal is I'm not going to bore everybody to death with a whole lot of information about myself and the company that I represent, but I do want to give you just a sort of a very high-level view of who we are and some of the places that we work in throughout the U.S. And sometimes folks, because it's a name that may not be immediately familiar with you, so our company's called Dominion Voting Systems. We're headquartered out of Denver, Colorado. We have approximately a third of all ballots that are cast in the United States for various elections are counted on our equipment. So we operate in about 33 states, some as the entire state provider, some as individual counties, and a number of counties, whichever happens to be that jurisdiction within those. So some very notables would be the majority of state of Louisiana has just moved with our equipment. New Mexico, we do quite a bit of work in California. We've just recently signed up with Colorado. You may have heard of some of the things that are happening in the state of Colorado. So they're incorporating a number of different types of our solutions into what it is that they're doing. And one of the things, hopefully I'll give you a little bit of an idea about with us, is we offer a very broad range of solutions. I brought the main one that I'd like to show with you today is our newest machine, and I'll explain why we talk about that one a lot. And the goal is to really sort of be able to give you a little bit of an overview of that, show you how simple our equipment is to use, and why we did certain things with our equipment in order to make it the best use for both the voter and also the poll workers and the supervisors and everybody involved in the election. The goal is to make it a simple process to use and very intuitive for everybody. So as a voter comes to a polling station, it's a very intuitive thing for them to vote with this equipment. And likewise for those folks that are responsible for delivering that election, it's very important that for them as well, it's an intuitive piece of hardware to use, and that's very stepwise created. So hopefully that's really kind of the goal I've got for you today. So the piece of equipment I want to talk about is our newest scanning technology, which is what we call our ICE, which is our, just forgot the name, ImageCast Evolution, which was an evolution from our previous equipment, which was sort of the precursor to this, which was our ImageCast Precinct. The reason we talk about it being our evolution on this is that it's a single machine that can provide voting options for all of the voters in your precinct. So whether they be an ADA voter or a non-ADA voter, everyone can use the same piece of equipment and be done simultaneously. So I'm going to show you how both an ADA vote can occur in conjunction with regular voting occurring at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take it from the point of we'll pretend for a minute that we're walked into a polling station, and this has been delivered from the county office where it's been prepared and ready to go. So basically, the poll workers arrive in the morning. This machine will have been locked. You'll notice if you had to look at the equipment, there's a number of areas on here where there are both physical lock areas, as well as we can put security seals, signatured seals that ensure that they have not been opened or tampered with. So the first thing that would happen in the morning, this machine would be unlocked, clamshell top would be removed, set aside. You'll notice this is completely lockable to the base. It receives its power from the base itself. And everything is on board here. So what we can do is actually, as the machine comes or as the poll worker arrives at the polling station, everything is on board with the equipment they have. You'll notice that the equipment is on 4 casters. We don't have straight wheels. This way it makes it very easy to move into tight spaces, and if it's a difficult door to get into. You'll notice sometimes if it was a straight wheels in the back, sometimes you have a lot of tricky that. This one is very maneuverable and easy to slide around. I'm going to do a couple of things. Hopefully if you can see or if you need to see more, please just feel free to come on up and get me here. On board here, we have in the trunk area, we have the power cord, single power cord. Simply is plugged in. There's lull in the conversation while I do things. What we'll notice is when it got plugged in, you may have heard there was a beep. You'll notice there's a series of lights along the side. This indicates both the strength of the internal rechargeable battery backup that's on board the equipment. So if there was a power failure, there's a minimum of a 2-hour continuous scan battery. We have had them last for up to about 5 hours where the scanning wasn't continuous. So somebody marked the ballot, came in, scanned it, came to work. These lights will also indicate the status of everything else on board on the scanner. So any of these doors are all alarmed. So when I say alarmed, they will light up when they're opened, as well as internally this will write an audit log every time one of these doors was opened or closed. So if, for example, I was to open the ballot box door, unlock it and open it, there would actually be a log written onto the permanent tape on the machine that would explain the date and time that any of these doors were opened or closed. So once the machine's been powered on, poll worker simply turns the machine on by opening the top. You'll notice in the back there's a kickstand here that can be adjusted to go from straight level to fairly, so that the voter as they're approaching the machine can move that back and forth if need be. We open, oops, it's hard to do with the microphone. It may be easier, I'm just going to show you what it looks like and then I'll take these off so that we can actually more easily see the screen. And we'll move those up a little bit. So there is a privacy screen that surrounds this when it happens. So now, while the machine is going through a series of self-diagnostics, the poll worker is open, free to be able to do any of their other setup that they're required to do. So if they need to get their pens ready, any of the other paper stuff ready, just lets this go through its self-diagnostic. Takes a few minutes and you'll notice there's a progress bar. We'll be starting in a second to show you the progress of that. Takes about 4 or 5 minutes probably to start. So while that's doing it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up my other pieces of equipment that are required. Again, on board the machine, I have my ADA device, which is the tactile, audio tactile interface. This couples with a pair of headphones, so a person that would be visually impaired or so on is actually able to use the tactile interface, and the headphones will lead them through the process of being able to do an ADA vote. One of the reasons we have them on a fairly long cord is, as I explained, one of the advantages of this machine is that with this dual display, which I'm going to show you here, we're actually able to set up a second polling station which is connected to this machine, which will allow an ADA voter in the privacy of a booth to complete their ballot while this machine is continuing to accept ballots being fed by marked ballots from all the other voters. So it doesn't interrupt and tie up this machine. So the major advantage of that is you've got one piece of hardware, one type of training in every polling station. So we're not buying additional pieces of hardware or additional technologies sitting in a polling station, which only may be used once or twice, if at all, during that election. But it meets all of the requirements. So you'll notice the machine is now yelling at me, telling me that there's things that I need to do. And what I need to do now is, as the poll worker, log on and tell this machine that it's time to start opening the poll process. So one of the things that we talked about is that in order to meet certain security requirements, we believe it's important that you have two things, not just a single key that you turn on to start the poll, but we believe there's something that you have to have and there's something that you should know. So this is the key, and the other would be the password that is in your head. in that case, what we would be able to do is those passwords can be set up to be anything from a single character to very long and complex. It really comes down to the requirement of the county that is using the equipment. So it's not really, we don't enforce, you know, a 12-digit password and a 12-digit username. What we say is, what's important to your or to your county, let's set it up so that it's exactly what is required there. And it can be set up so that each poll worker has their own, or it would be set up so that they would be all the same, it would be easier for training and so on. So I'm going to just quiet this thing down. So then you can see there's a large touchscreen interface. Would it be easier if I took this off for anybody on the sides to see? Yeah. So we have had the question, well, somebody says, what if somebody pulls these off? They are removable without breaking it too much. Well, just more if they were to get broken, we can repair them. And it's not going to come off in my hand. There we go. If I broke it, I have to pay. Yeah. Might be easier for everybody to see this way. So now as a poll worker, I'm required to sign in using the credentials that I have. I'll use one that we have created for ourselves, but like I said, it can be this complex or it can be much more simple. Find it. Okay, so now it's going to go through finishing loading the rest of the election files. All the election files are contained on the flash memory cards that are contained internal to the machine, which have been programmed for that specific precinct, both of which are removable but sealed within the doors on the side of the machine, and there would be either locks or security seals put on these. The actual piece of hardware doesn't care where it's located. It only cares that the cards have been loaded, and those are what have all of your election definitions in it, right? So it's just going to finish going through a really quick verifying that all of the files meet what the equipment is expecting, so that nobody has tampered with either the equipment or the election files themselves. There has to be a check done between the hardware from when it was finished with the logic and accuracy testing, locked down and prepared for your county's election. So it will always do a check whenever that happens to ensure that nothing has changed from the time it was locked down till the morning that it started to start voting. Okay? So that's just going to take another minute. You can see it's almost finished. And I'm trying to get myself so I don't have my back to anybody here. Okay, so the first thing it's going to ask me to do here is going to, very simple set of commands. All of this is customizable based upon the county, and then we've gone through a little bit of the process on how you do that using our election management system, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail talking about today because you get long and deep into that very quickly, and it puts me to sleep to listen to. So I'm going to go ahead and open the poll, and it says poll is closed, and I want to open it. And it's going to tell me yes. The first thing it's going to do is print off the zero count report. Before anything else can happen, I'm going to get a zero count tape that will come off the back of the machine. This process can be configured to print 1, 0, 3 of them, 5 of them, as many of them as are required by your county at the start of the polling process. This takes about 30 seconds to a minute to complete printing the zero count tape. It's a standard tape. We'll show all of the races that this machine is ready to accept ballots for, as well as there's places on the bottom for everyone involved to sign, and then they can be stored with the machine, and then copies returned at the end of the day. It's printed on a thermal archival paper, which is a requirement. I may have set it up to create more than one. It's going to finish the other one. But anybody, if you want to have a look at what one of those looks like, I'm sure you can see they have the various races. And all it does is ensure that there's been no ballots already cast in it on this machine for this specific one. It told me that the printing was complete and wanted to know whether I needed to print another copy or not. In this case is no. So now my machine is completely ready. It's now ready to accept ballots. It took a total of, if you had taken out my talking time, probably about 5 or 6 minutes to go from removing the clamshell to being in a state where we're now ready to begin voting. Okay, so this is exactly what a voter would see when they approach the machine. You'll notice that there has been no ballots cast in this machine whatsoever, and it's now in a state that it's ready to accept ballots. I brought sample ballots with me, and anybody's welcome to come later and we can try a couple of things, but there's a few things I want to talk about our equipment sort of before I start doing this. Based upon the election rules that have been instated for your county, we're able to provide things like if a person has under or over voted, it will return the ballot and give them an opportunity to change those things. If the machine detects a marginal mark or an unclear or ambiguous mark, it will actually give the voter the opportunity to return the ballot again and correct that mark, however that mistake was made, or if it wasn't in fact an error. Or if the case was as if they undervoted a ballot, but that was their intent, they have the ability to go ahead and cast that ballot with no mark, but it will tell them the outcome of that action. So that if they've not made a selection for a specific race, the machine will actually tell them that this is the outcome of the reason why this won't count for that race. One of the things that I'm going to touch on it just really quickly is we talk a little bit about the ability for us to set a dual threshold on the amount of black that has to be within the marking area of the ballot in order for it to count. So we set the first threshold that will say it has to be a minimum, and this is configurable. Well, let's take, for example, 50% and above of the marking area is black. That's guaranteed a vote. So if it goes through and there's more than that mark there, it will count as a vote. Instead of having that and anything lower come back as ambiguous mark, we set a second threshold that basically says something between 49.999% black and 30% will come back as ambiguous, right? So this ensures that anything that would be in that gray zone, you have the opportunity to get back the ballot and make sure. And where this, sometimes people have talked about on vote equipment, they talk about what happens is that on subsequent counts, you may get something that's called a vote flip. So what's happened is that something that was at a certain percentage of mark, because the ballot went in slightly askewed or something the second time, it may count as a vote or may not count. By setting the second threshold, we ensure that the ballots every time will count the same way. So that anything falling in that ambiguous zone has been brought back to the voter and they're given the opportunity to remark it darker and ensure that it's fed through and their ballot and selections are counted the way that they were intended to be cast.
This paper ballot.
Yes, sir.
You're going to mark it with something that other than just an X.
You can mark it with an X, or you can fill out. I'll pass out a couple of these if anybody wants to look at them. And again, I've got some markers so we can actually come and try it. You'll notice beside each of the races and the options in those races, there is a marking area in there. It can be marked with an X. It can be squiggled in. Any form of mark within that marking area or slightly outside of it will count towards that vote. So we can try some of these and give you an idea of how they're actually cast. So in this case, let's just take one and we're going to mark it fairly quickly and simply. See if I can do this one-handed somehow. So I'm going to mark that. And I'll mark this one by filling it in. So with this equipment, the ballot can be put in any orientation, upside down, backwards, forwards, it doesn't really matter. They'll always scan the exact same way. So the ballot is fed in. Takes about a second or so to read. It told me that it was a valid ballot, told me it was casting, and there was an audible ring that the ballot was cast and dropped into the box. And we'll see that our now total amount of ballots cast in this machine to date have been 1. Okay? So now let's take, for example, if I was to feed in a ballot that was blank. It's going to scan the ballot and it returns me with a series of warnings. And it says blank ballot was detected. Means that no marks were shown on any of the marking areas. So my ability here is to return my ballot or to cast it. Say, for example, I'm casting a protest ballot and I don't want any of them to count. I could go ahead and count it that way. Or I simply request that my ballot be returned. My ballot's returned. I go back to my place to mark the ballot, and I'm now given the opportunity to mark it. Okay? The same would account for if, for example, try not to mark on my tie, I marked 2 of my races and left the other ones blank. I feed my ballot. It's telling me exactly what's going on. Oh, it's because I did it on ones that were accepted that could be cast as blank. I should have done it the other way. So they can be set so that we will either return ballots whether or not they're blank, or depending upon whether they're minor races or not minor races. It really comes down to, again, it comes down to how we set the ballot up for your race. So I'll mark these ones and I'll leave the major ones blank. So it's going to give me a... We've changed the ballot yesterday to accept any of them. So let's overmark a ballot. When we were going through the process yesterday, we changed it to allow overmarked ballot or undermarked ballots. So let's double mark one. So I've overvoted this one. Hopefully we didn't change that ballot either. All right, so it's telling me that there are too many votes cast in one of these, so it's giving me the warning on this side. United States voter, it says I chose 2, but I was only allowed 1. Explains exactly what the error was that I made in this, and it gives me the opportunity to second chance this. So if, for example, that's not what I had intended to do, I would simply return the ballot, go back to my poll worker, and they would issue me a new ballot and record the reason why that this was an error. Okay?
What would happen to that?
This one, it's kept and recorded that it was returned. So it's called a spoiled ballot, and they're kept in order to maintain your proper count.
Could be in one of them boxes.
Yeah. There's a that process is something that's specific to your county, and that falls within the rules. And I believe they're allowed to do that 3 times in total. Yeah, and then so at that point in time, hopefully a poll worker is.
Someone could do it 3 times.
They could. Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's a requirement of the county. Basically, the equipment itself will allow any number of those. So as I explained, so what I'd like to do now is just show you, for example, what would happen if you have the machine has now got to be used for to perform an ADA session for a voter with a disability. And I'm going to set it up so that it's done on our secondary screen. It can be done on both, but I want to show where the reason why we do it on the secondary one, because it allows us to not tie up the primary machine for one of those votes.
Steve, you want me to help where you show both?
Yeah, I just got to.
Same time?
Yeah, you could, Frank, if you want. Yeah. So let me just. I just want to set this up. I didn't do it when we started. Just going to set the microphone down for a second. Okay, so typically this configuration would be set up behind a privacy screen that would be accessible for wheelchair accessible as well as other folks. So this would not be connected this way, and it can be up to 15 feet away. so we could have it set over significantly to the side. And the big advantage of that too is that for that ADA voter, they're not feeling any stress of having to get through the process quicker. They can take as much time as they want while they're doing that ballot process. So in order to initiate that session, I need to... Okay, so it's asking me what I want to do, so I'm going to initiate an accessible voting session. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it on the external, which means that it's here. And I'm going to inform what the ballot ID was. Okay. Okay, so at this point in time, this machine will then return back into its standard voting mode. And we can continue to feed ballots into this as other voters are in order to complete their session. So if Frank wants to fill one out, takes your time. Now again, I'm not going to go through the entire process of using all of the standard equipment for this, just because it's something that not everybody can hear at the same time. As well, on top of this, we use all standard interfaces, so you can be using a sip and puff type device for a person that would be quadriplegic. You'll notice on the ATI device as well, they're all color-coded as well as size-coded, and there is Braille. Although less than 15% currently of people with severe disabilities are actually learning Braille with visual disabilities. So we have to provide a number of other tools in order to do that. So whether they be tactilely, the size and shape of these, and the headphones, if they were listening to it, would be leading them through this process. So I'm just you'll notice on this screen, it's giving me instructions on how I would be using the interface in order to cast my ballot. So I'm just going to go through this process really quickly. It's waiting for it. What are you doing? Nope. Okay. So what it's waiting for me is to go through setting this up as an audio process, although I didn't do that. So basically so as this person was completing this, you'll have noticed that Frank was able to go ahead and cast that ballot in here. Once this session was complete, I would actually just remove my paper ballot that was handed as my ADA voter. It would be fed into the machine, and then that ballot would then be marked with the ballot marking device that's included inside this piece, and then it would be dropped into the ballot box. And I can show you I can take one and show you when it's done. What we've done is that in the past, most ballot marking devices for ADA voters would make either a perfect X or would take and make a perfect circle within the ballot marking area. And what would happen is that even by mistake, if a person was going through those ballots after, it was very clear who owned that ballot, especially if you had a precinct that only had maybe one or two ADA voters throughout the day. So that because they were such perfect marks. So what we've done in our case is we went and specifically took and made a whole bunch of hand marks, scanned those in, stored them within the tabulator, so that as those marks were being made for an ADA voter, they looked like they're handmade. And what we did even for write-ins is we recorded a number of different people's handwriting, so that when a person came in, filled out, if they were using this machine to create it, it isn't written in perfect block letters. It's written in script that looks like handwriting. So it would be very difficult for a person to actually look at it and know for sure that that belonged to a specific voter. So that way we want to maintain the anonymity of all voters, not including your ADA voters. We want to ensure that there's no chance that somebody by mistake could actually pick one up, look at it, because that was the only person that happened to cast a ballot in that situation. So I'm going to have to renew this session. You just give me 1 second. I had to cancel that one because I had started it as the wrong one. Okay. So what I had done that time is I had actually asked it to use the headphones, and I wasn't using the headphones. That's why I did move to the next part. See if I can do it, if I can read the instructions correctly this time. Now, sometimes, folks that have seen these have never used one because we're not familiar with the interface tools that a person with a disability is required to use. They sometimes can look like they're very confusing. My wife is legally blind, so she uses a lot of this kind of equipment. And when she's doing stuff, including like searching on the internet, I watch it and listen to her, and I can't follow a thing that she's doing because she's speeding around and the thing's talking to her and stuff. So I can't do any of that at all. But she's able to negotiate this stuff very, very simply with this equipment. Okay. So it's telling me how to use all of this type of equipment. I'm going to skip the instructions, and it's ready to vote. So here's my ballot being displayed, exactly the same ballot that everybody else uses, and it's being displayed on this secondary voting screen. Using this device and all of the equipment that's contained in it, they're able to actually go through by using standard movements, select their actual candidate that they want, continue on, move to the next race, select, move to the next race, make all of their selections as appropriate. Okay, so once a person has finished their voting process on this device, okay, they're asked if they want to do a review, and they're actually able to review the entire ballot prior to requesting that it be printed and marked into the machine. So if they're all set and they're happy with their ballot, okay, so what they would do at this point in time would then be to ask the poll worker for assistance. The poll worker would come over, take their paper ballot that they were handed when they came in, go back to the machine. They would just have to interrupt the line for a moment. And it wants to ballot marking. So it's asked me to feed the ballot in. So this is the ADA voter's ballot. It's gone into the machine. It's currently being marked based upon the selections that individual made. It'll then be tabulated and dropped into the box. We'll hear that happen in a second. Ding. Okay. Now, if there had been, for any reason, there had been a problem with that ballot, or for some reason, or it could be set so that it's returned to the voter once it's been marked prior to being tabulated. In this one, we have it set so that it's marked and tabulated and dropped directly into the ballot box. We haven't bothered to have it returned to them in that case. But it is an option that they would have as a voter to see their ballot again before it was tabulated, although they had already reviewed it once on the secondary screen. And we were able to, now, there's a number of items on there that they're able to do, including things like increasing the font size of the ballot, increasing the contrast. For some people with visual disabilities, it's much easier to see white on black than black on white. So any options that we can do to help that individual with their voting process and to be able to vote as independently as possible is what we want to be able to do. All right. So at that point, what I want to do is sort of stop and see if there's anybody has any questions about what I've done so far, or if anybody wants to have a closer look at it, or we can talk about some specifics on the ballot. If you want, I can probably pull that ballot out if anybody wants to see those marks that were made for that 88 voters, so that they're not those perfect little squiggle marks that are put on for everyone else. And I am trying to be as cognizant of time as possible. So, yes, sir.
If you didn't have this additional piece of equipment, most of these handicapped people bring someone in with them that they trust.
Correct?
They could go make that ballot, mark it without that piece of equipment on it.
That's correct.
Take it to the machine, cast it, and everything.
Everything's done. That's correct. If that's, and again, that comes down to the choice of that voter. So in order to be compliant, we have to be able to allow them to completely do it independently. Or if the case happens to be that they've brought someone with them, we just go ahead and it speeds up that entire process. We don't even have to worry about using these, right? So
that has to be purchased.
That has to be included as in the past. You may have a secondary piece of equipment that was done for this. And again, this isn't sort of my requirement. This is the requirement of, I believe it's actually a federal requirement, that accessible voting tools are available to every polling station for every voter. So that's...
The question I have is, if there's a mistake on the ballot, it shows you what particular race.
That's correct.
Mistake is. It didn't show you what the mistake is. It just says you made a mistake, say in a governor's race.
Right.
You want to change it, or is that how you do that? The poll worker don't say you want to change this, or is that your intention to do whatever it is you said did? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think if we go through it again, and it'll depend, again, these are all options on how we set up, so what it actually tells you. But I believe, like when I did the double vote, it actually said that I made 2 selections when I should have only been able to make 1, or I should have only made 1. So it actually tells me what I did incorrect, or that I left it blank. But again, those messages are 100% configurable by your county in order to match what the requirement is.
It doesn't say you voted for John Smith and Joe Blow, on there. It doesn't come off the screen like that.
That's correct.
You just made a mistake, and then you have an opportunity to go back and give these.
That's correct. It does not come back and say you voted for, right? So that you've got to be able to maintain that anonymity for that voter, right? So the last thing you want to do is have a poll worker who is doing one of these, right? So, and just to see what it's saying on it. So it doesn't come back and say who you voted for. It only says that you made an error on that one.
Okay, if you made a double mark and you had to, it told you made a double mark.
Yes, sir.
Voted 2 people, 2 people.
That's a reject ballot.
I know that, but when it comes back.
It ain't gonna come back, it's gonna go in the file.
No, it's gonna come back.
We said it'd come back.
We said it'd come back.
So it comes back to him, and he can't recast it. Now,
But he just got to
how
say
you gonna take the other vote? He ain't gonna take the other mark off of it.
No.
It's double mark.
Do it 3 times.
You got 3 times. Yes, you're right.
Yes, that's correct. So
Anyway, my question was, if it's gonna tell you made a mistake.
that's correct.
You're gonna get it back.
Yep.
If you mark twice, how do you erase that one?
Okay, so you don't.
You get a new ballot?
You'll get a new ballot.
Okay.
Yeah. You take that back to the poll worker, and the poll worker will issue you a new. They protect that ballot because they have to be accounted for. So that ballot is. They all have to be counted, and it's kept so that if anybody asks for an audit at the end, that it can be done. But a person is issued a brand new ballot in order to be able to cast that ballot. But he's only allowed 3. Now, there was a good point made too. If a person intended to cast it that way because they don't want to vote for anybody, so they wanted to make the mistake, they could cast the ballot, and it would only spoil that race. Okay? All of the other proper marks that were made on the ballot would be counted and appointed to the correct races.
Same way if you don't mark, if you leave off something completely, don't mark at all, you're gonna still say it's okay. That's what I want to say.
That's correct. Yeah. That's because we have to give you the ability to do exactly what you would have done at a polling if you were dropping in a paper box. Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure this will allow us to do it, but it would seem to me that we would not want to even slow the process down by undervotes, because probably half the people that go in there when they get down to the long ballots,
Yep.
down where they don't know how you vote, and they don't need to know, because they already know.
Right, so that's one of the things that you may have mentioned, you may have remembered we talked a little bit about, was this idea of being able to treat differently a major race as opposed to a minor race. Not that we're saying that it's a minor person, but so say the vote for governor or president or one of those, we could consider those to be a major race, so they could be treated differently than some of the others. So that if the person didn't vote for the governor race, it might return that one, but it would be everybody else, it would go ahead and accept the ballot, even if it was undervoted, right? And that's very, very common, especially you get that if you have places where you can vote for more than one solution, for more than one selection, right?
With the time he's standing, he has an option to say
That's correct, yeah. Yeah. So the point was made that as it was scanned, you have the option to do that. But it could be done so that it's even faster, so that they don't even get those messages, right? But knowing that we have the ability to do either one, right? So again, I mean, one of the things that we want to make really clear is this is your election, and we want to provide you the tools to help you manage the process. Does anybody have any? Does anybody want to come and try one, or mark one, or break my machine? That's correct. Yep. That's correct. Yep.
And they're storing identical data. Is that right?
That's right.
And exactly what all Stephen is stored on those flashcards.
Okay. So again, it's very important to understand that we want to know everything that's been entered here, but nothing about the person that entered it here. Okay. So the only thing that gets stored on that flashcard is getting stored the actual votes for each individual races that came along, and something that I'll just point to. We also scan every single ballot that comes into our system. So we make a digital scan of that ballot. And including that, we append to the bottom of that digital scan what's called, we have a patent on this, and it's called an audit mark. And so that audit mark is an English language text of exactly how the scanner interpreted the ballot that was presented to it. Okay, so it will say, so based upon what the ballot looked like, the audit mark at the bottom will say, for president, this was who was counted. For governor, it was Bob. For treasurer, it was Steve. It will say each of those. So the importance of that is that if in the future somebody said, well, how come there were 10 blank ballots for the president? Well, you could actually go through the digital images that came out of the machine, including the audit mark was there, so you could be looking at the picture of the ballot, as well as understanding exactly how the machine interpreted the picture that was presented to it. Right? So what we've often seen is that if there's been a judicial recount or a requirement, they won't go to the ballot, they won't go to the paper ballot. They'll actually say, let's review those digital pictures and how the ballot was interpreted by the machine. Right? So it's every single ballot that goes in, and that doesn't matter whether it's a single-sided, a dual-sided, a 22-inch ballot, whatever the size of that is, they're all treated exactly the same, where they're digitally imaged, and those images additionally are stored on those flashcards. But on the night of your election, we'll only pull off the actual vote count data. That other information is then taken in at a later time, so you can download all of that. Something that I've talked about a little bit, I'll try not to go too much longer. These machines too can be set up so that if, for example, in the future you chose to have what's called like an advanced voting session, or in some places you may have heard the term where they've called it a super center, where they've had people be able to go to a central location, and regardless of what precinct that they should have voted in, they can vote there. So what we're able to do is that these machines can be programmed to accept every ballot face that would actually potentially be used within your county, and then appropriately account all of those votes when fed into our reporting and tallying system. Okay, so one machine could actually take every ballot from all 40 precincts or 50 precincts, and then at the end of it would actually appoint where all of those individual ballots and votes should have gone to. Okay, so that's just an option that you could have with the machine. So that can be done for advanced voting, or it could be done for, some of these ideas of a super center or something else. And then, of course, those are obviously used in conjunction with, some type of a centralized polling book or strike-off list, obviously. How am I doing? Everybody have, am I being clear as mud? And hopefully I'm not, I hate being the last person between people and lunch or something. Yeah, I know, I'm sweating a little bit. So hopefully I was able to, in this short period of time, sort of show you the value of having sort of a single piece of equipment for a couple of reasons. One, it cuts down on the overall cost, because in the polling station, there's only one piece of equipment. And in some places, we've heard stories where, you may have to have accessible equipment, and you do, in every polling station, but maybe only one or two of those are used during the actual voting day, right, for a number of reasons. But by having this and having the secondary screen, we're not tying up this machine while all the other voting is occurring. As well, having a single piece of equipment allows for us to be able to simplify the training process. So you can see that. So when the voter got there, or the polling worker got there in the morning, it was a very simple process of unlock the machine, one plug that it goes into, turn it on, pull the screen up, the machine comes on, put in the password, and they're ready to start their voting process, right? And again, there's a number of security. Somebody asked the question one time of me, and they said, well, what happens if, the person is, a quadriplegic or something, and they were in a chair, and they're not able to summon the poll worker by, putting their hand up or something else. So this help button on the bottom here, depending upon the type of session that the person is using, so if they were using like a SIP pup type or something, would allow them to have, there's a light pole that is connected to the back of this machine, so that if a help button was pressed on this for an ADA session, this light would come on to inform the poll worker that person needed assistance. Okay? So again, what we're trying to do is ensure that this person is as independent as possible, right? And that they're given, so what we do is when they sit down here, they're given a series of questions to say, well, what help do you need? We don't want to say, well, obviously you're a person that's blind, so you need to do this. We need them to tell us how we can help them and allow them to be as independent as possible while they vote. Right. So again, just touching on that, the actual physical limitation on the box itself depends on the size of the ballot. Up to 5,000 ballots can be deposited inside the box. The actual votes per scans per minute are it's somewhere in logically. It's easy. If I was standing here just feeding ballots, you're probably looking at somewhere about 20 to 25 a minute sort of thing. So you sort of extrapolate that out, and depending upon the size. So we're talking polling stations of actual active voters of above 3,000 are very doable. Right. And again, because the machine's not tied up for more than very short periods where the polling worker has to initiate the session or close the session, it doesn't stop that line. And what happens is you can have a room, for example, like this, with maybe a dozen areas where people can be marking their ballots. And sometimes the funny thing is, the last election I helped out on, they were getting a little bit of a lineup for putting the ballots in, and the reason is because the poll worker knew everybody. And so they'd come up and it was, how are you? How are the kids? How's blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of one of those things where it was great because you knew everybody there, but it was long enough that it was causing a little bit of a line. So we had to kind of come in and say, we appreciate how enthusiastic you are and great that you know everybody, but maybe just let's speed the line up a little bit and just keep the hellos for after they're done. So, but really that sort of sometimes is things that we see.
So you only hold 3,000 ballots?
No, 3 to 5 depends. It sort of depends on the size of them.
That's the one machine.
That's the one. It's the ballot box. It's got nothing. The machine itself can do hundreds of thousands of ballots.
Okay, but when it fills up, what do we do?
Right. So you would add.
Don't have a precinct more than 3,500.
Right.
So let's say, for example, you did.
3,000 to 5,000. I just wondered what if it fills up?
It's okay, and it's a very valid question. So what can happen is if this did, it would alarm. Okay, so the first thing that would happen is this machine would alarm when it's getting close. And what can happen is that this can be taken off remove this machine. It's simply locked in. I can show you here where the locks are. This is locked. The ballot box itself remains locked, right? There's no ability to get in. And we swap out and put a new ballot box in there. Okay? So if that's the case, this basically is removed. A new one's dropped on top. It does not affect the count whatsoever. It doesn't change anything. It's not interrupted the voting in any case.
So if you had it lit, whatever, and the thing said it's full, but it really wasn't full.
Right.
But we'd be able to just swap boxes. Because I
Yep.
think that's something that could happen.
There is yeah, for sure. There's, and that's why we try and take into account every possible scenario that there might be, including, let's say for an example, somebody said to me, well, what if you had a catastrophic failure and something else happened and it's going to take us a little while to get a brand new machine here in order to do this. Say, I don't know, something severely bad happened and this machine stopped working for whatever reason. We have on the back here an outstack box where your ballots can be deposited and then scanned at a later time, okay? And this is a lockable box that sits in here. Ballots can be deposited in here, and then once we've replaced this machine, or once whatever the repair was required, this can be unlocked. Those ballots are removed, scanned through the machine, and deposited into the box. That's correct, yeah. So at that point, they would, maybe be instructed by the poll worker to make sure that they've, completed it as much as possible. It is one of the cases, it's been built sort of for jurisdictions where they do and don't have that as well. So.
Would there would be no ADA component if the machine fails, so.
That's correct.
In that particular situation, you have that issue.
Right, so in that situation, I won't speak for this jurisdiction, but I know in other jurisdictions they have the ability to request that the poll worker would assist them because that person's has been sworn an oath, so that poll worker could actually assist that voter. Because you are talking about the fact that there's no ability for them to vote, right? Regardless of what that would be. So.
We have an hour here.
Right. She's probably the best person to answer that one. I'm sure she's done some training for this. So I won't pretend to know more than her, for sure.
I think if we're going to have an issue with any kind of assistance, that's going to be an issue. Another issue would be any suggestion that we could move beyond a triggering mechanism if somebody is undervoted.
Right.
That I don't believe our Secretary of State's will let that happen. I think we're going to be triggering everybody that undervotes.
No.
Right, Madam?
We certainly do that in 77 counties that use the same system. Everybody's given an opportunity to see if they undervote. It's part of the Help America Vote Act.
Right.
And really part of second chance voting. So although.
Those were two things that raised my suspicion.
Yeah, you would think, well, it's going to make it faster, but then by the same token, if I honestly just overlooked that raise, the federal law requires that you give me a second chance to consider it.
Well, I think it will do that. It will.
And it will.
About moving past that and telling the machine, don't trigger undervotes on these races.
Right.
If it's a big race, do it. Yeah, you just have the option, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to.
We're good.
Yeah, perfect. And just to be really clear, we would all of our original direction on this would come from the state, right? From the SIM system that the state uses. So whatever its rules are. Yeah. And the state.
Well, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I know there's several situations that maybe I missed it, but for handicapped, they can't get out of the vehicle.
Right.
How do you fix that?
So currently, my understanding is that somebody goes to the curbside and helps them. Right. I can't do anything for that individual with the machine. If I couldn't reel it out to them or that kind of thing. In that case, the person you'd have to follow the same process that you're currently having, and that person that's responsible for assisting them would do the rest of the process. It would be great if we had a portable. run it out to the curbside. Yeah, make the cord longer, that could work.
Or you can just wheel that whole thing out there to them.
Yeah, and well, you know what, it's pretty tough. Well, that is believe it or not, there are jurisdictions that are using that type of stuff as well. So where they're actually using like a type of a tablet, and the person can actually mark on the tablet and make their vote that way. It's very common. Or Wi-Fi, yeah, for sure. So, anybody have any? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. It is actually. It's a really simple process. Basically, I'm just reluctant to do it before anybody has a chance, because if anybody wants to do this, if I close the poll, it's done. I can't reopen it and I can't do anything with it. So, but I can go through. If everybody's kind of done wanting to see this or anything else, I'll be happy to go ahead and close the poll. You'll see it's as absolutely simple as it is. Although we do a few things like, is this what you want to do? You're sure? You're sure this is what you want to do? And then we also do things like, tell them to make sure that they've checked that there has been no votes deposited in the box or any of the other pieces around that. So, and it's exactly the same thing. Once the poll's closed, you shut the case down. Your tapes have been printed off with your unofficial report tapes that come off of here. They're all signed by everybody. And then typically what we'll see happen is that the secondary card door will be opened. Anybody may have noticed, you may probably back there, you didn't notice. You'll see that if I open one of the doors, there was an alarm light came on. Okay, so that just tells me that an audit log has been written to the system that I opened this door during active voting. Okay, so this is where the cards sit. There's one here, and the second door is over here. Again, these would all be sealed and or locked, depending upon the requirement of your county. At the end, so once I'm done that, I pull that out. That card is placed in a secure envelope of some form, and then that's returned to the county office, and that'll be used to upload all of the results from these, and that'll be your official results coming out of here once it's all been approved, and typically not till the next day. This can be all locked into place again, clamshells all on it, locks are all applied, and then this can be then picked up later that night or the next morning, or whatever the rule is of the county. Will then pick this up, return all of the hardware back. The secondary card can be taken out, secured. The machine can then be put in its dormant state and packed away for the next time you need it. Yes, sir.
The totals were printed out on that tape?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it basically will print out whatever the vote totals are for each of the races that was, and again, if it was multiple precincts, it would show each of those precincts on that tape. So if you want, I can actually go ahead and close it, and if we're all done sort of playing with my, I don't know, I'd have to call somebody much more.
See, you did tell them if that machine did die, the only thing we had to do is take those cards out.
That's correct.
Yeah,
maybe I didn't, so thanks. So yeah, again, that's basically, if for some reason, if there was some form of a catastrophic failure of the machine, and I can tell you that we've had them dropped, broken, screens cracked, pieces of the case falling off, and they still accept ballots. But if, for example, it did, what could happen is, based upon that, these cards would be opened, removed, another one of these would be dropped on the ballot box. We'd slip the cards back in, hold the machine top up, and it knows that this is an open election, so it would be ready to go from that point forward. There would be an interruption written to the audit log that would say that voting for some reason was interrupted and a machine change was made, but there would be no other effect on the actual election. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and close it, and that way we can see that, and I'll show you the tape. So again, I need my I button, which is kind of the key to these. And as we discussed yesterday, those I buttons can be programmed for each individual machine, or you can have one that could use them all. It comes down to the requirement of the security within the jurisdiction. Okay, so we don't want to enforce your jurisdiction to do one or the other. If that's the case, we will do that. And we've had them set so that it can be, multi-site authentication and so on. So by closing the poll, it's telling me that I need to close. Okay, and it's going to want my password so that I'm not doing this by mistake. And anybody could figure out that really tough password. So it's going to ask me again, you've chosen to close the polls. Are you sure that that's what you want to do? And I'm going to say, okay. So it's going to warn me again that once I've done this, I can no longer bring this machine back to life, okay, with this election. I'd have to reprogram the card or put new cards in there, okay? So that's it. I can no longer feed ballots into this. You may have heard that it's already starting to print its results tape, and this is as much as I need to do as the poll worker. At that point in time, if the election was over, I can be starting gathering up all my other equipment. I can start putting away my ADA equipment back into its proper storage areas in the box. I can be putting away my pens, see how many Sharpies I still have left after the day. We may have mentioned that. I didn't mention it, but somebody said, why do you use Sharpies? It's because, and everybody thinks this is funny, but my engineer that was here was telling me that, we spent literally 2 years. We started with a Sharpie and then spent 2 years trying to find something better than a Sharpie, and always came back to them because they do one of two things, or there's a number of things about them. One, they make a nice black mark. The ink dries immediately, and you can get these everywhere, right? I mean, Staples sells them. Probably a lot of the dollar stores sell them. I mean, they're Kmart, Target. We can always get them. They're not a specially ordered pen from some supplier. And we avoid the problems with things like a lot of ballpoints, as they get used, they start collecting ink and they get glummy on them, and then that'll either transfer to here so that the next ballot going through starts to pick up a little bit of that ink. So somebody looks at it and says, well, how come there's marks on this thing? Or it stains the actual scan head, and then it just means that we have to do more maintenance. It'll ask you to then feed. We have cleaning sheets that have to be put in every once in a while if that was the case and that sort of thing. So we found the nice thing about these is they're a perfect little marking device for that, and it's just a nice black mark when it goes on the piece of paper. So, and somebody asked me, maybe not today, but what happens if there's bleed through, so that if somebody was to hold your marker on something long enough, it'll actually make a mark on the back. And what happens if you had races on the back? Our ballots are designed so that marking areas would never be back to back from each other. So if there was any bleed through, you wouldn't by mistake have made a mark in a different race. Okay, so we want to make sure that you'd never have a back-to-back marking area for that very reason. Okay, so here's my closed poll tape. And again, it would have done the same thing. Would have asked me how many of these I wanted. I don't know if anybody wants to see these. There's probably not very exciting because we only cast a couple of ballots. That's it. It's going to ask me whether I want to print another one or not. Chances are the question to that is no. It's going to tell me there are some other reports that I could print out of here. So it would actually, there are audit reports. So if I wanted to print out a report of how many times one of these doors was opened, including the ballot box door, any of that, I can print out a report that would tell me all of that kind of stuff. But if not, and I'm done for the night, I press the off button, shut down. As soon as that closes, just going to take a second to shut down. Once I'm done, shut the thing down, rest of my equipment, unplug it, put it back in the trunk, as I like to call it, and we're done. So that's as quick and as easy as the polls need to be. Person then removes one of the cards. It gets signed if that's the requirement. I know in some places we'll actually put a little seal and a signature on it, drop in, and then that's returned to your county office for your official count. So. And that's it. That's the Evolution Ice Machine. So that's that's why we call it that one. So any other sort of questions about either it, me? I got two great kids.
Rusty's our IT director.
Sure.
It'd be nice. Yesterday, Peter had said that he was going to have basically an online demonstration on how
Right.
to program the ballots. He would be the person to be involved with that.
Yeah, for sure. So what we've offered other folks on this too is that if at a later date, if yourself and some of the other IT folks want to come log into like an online course on how to use our EMS system, we'll take you through the entire training course and sort of customize it to, so that it's not the really long one, but at least so that you can see all of the options that are available as you sort of drill through and how you can affect, as Peter likes to say too, one of the things we do is, once we template it, so your election is in this template, it's that sort of a big, use the big paintbrush and everything gets done the same way. So we fill out all the races, all those things, same template. And then if you go along and you say, well, once you've looked at the ballot, you realize maybe a name is too long, so we have to wrap it or we have to change it slightly so that it makes sure that it fits correctly on the ballot, then that's sort of your fine paintbrush and we can make all those little changes. And the same as all of those little error messages and warning messages and all of those are all fully customizable while using the EMS system. So all of those pieces can be created based specifically on how you and your county want to see those messages brought back to folks, right? So that it's, those things are very specific. So if you have any, if there was some some language or something that was more appropriate for you, then we'll create it using that EMS system for you. Everybody good? That's it? All right, well, thank you all. I appreciate everybody's time, and I think well, it's not too bad, I suppose.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a great afternoon, too. Oh, this and a box. The other stuff I'll take with me. So. Okay. Yeah. I've got another trucking company that's coming to pick it up. Yeah, because they've got to come and strap it and stuff. So for now, what do you want me to do? Because have you got someone in here right now?
Another one coming in at 1 o'clock.
Oh, I've probably got enough time to pack it then, and I'll get it out of your way. I stuck the coffee in the steam.
Hey, look, why don't we recess till 1 o'clock?
I make a motion to recess to 1 o'clock. I make a motion to recess to 1 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Morrison, recess to 1 o'clock. All in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous.
They don't need to be zero because nothing is stored. This is a dump. That's right. Yeah, so just, so there's nothing actually stored.
Oh, well, I forgot my phone.
But that comes down to one of those things. They're going to know the right question. I'm
That's just like across the street down here. It's supposed to be fair.
He's okay with it. I know.
Probably best just go out and follow you. Closest spot.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know I don't get people's I've been waiting 3 weeks. Well, I'm hoping to be next week. I'm a big. I used to love South Carolina barbecue. That I did. That I did. Thank you. Listen, thank you. It was really nice to meet you. Yeah. So if you have, but you know, again, and you know, I stress this all the time. If you go away and you say, gee, how much I asked, I get that question or whatever, please don't hesitate at all. Just give me a call. Well, it's usually 3 o'clock in the morning for me. Well, and I'm often up at 3 o'clock.
Probably 3 o'clock.
I wake up in the morning and go,